Welcome back, everybody, on maybe not your scheduled day, but some Saturday ACL action is coming everybody's way. Thank you, everybody who has decided to tune in for our special edition from the Noxus group. It is the Mirage Alliance Baguette Squad versus the Straw Hat Crew. It's myself and Quacks taking you through it once more. And Quacks, we'll spend some more time breaking down the teams, or we'll try to interlude it into the draft, because in ACL fashion, these two teams raced right into draft before we even ready.
It seems like it was a pretty sudden thing, and already we're firing away through the bans. And I can definitely tell where a lot of these teams want to target each other's champ pools. And you can see Mirage Alliance really starting to pay some tribute over toward that mid lane, banning out the Ahri, banning out the Aurora, and then we see the Skarner. And I think jungle mid is going to be the really important thing that we have coming up here in this series in particular, because you look at the mid jungle duos, you've got Low Jazz and you've got Adder being kind of the new kid on the block for this squad. This very much is, for those of you who watch Summer OQs, this is basically Apex Mission Impossible minus Zalt. Instead, it is Adder, a player who played on, I believe it was the Pepe squad of the summer split. So he's in here. He's an 18-year-old kid from Canada, very new to the entire scene. I believe 2024 was his first year competing. So I'm really interested to see how he meshes with kind of this entire squad that has been playing together for a good amount of the year. And on the other side, you've got Mirage Alliance back from the grave. This org has put themselves out there yet again after the NACL and getting relegated, and with a ton of new faces. Right? So that's really exciting to see. Straw Hat as well, kind of bringing up a bunch of players that are super successful in the Summer Open qualifier. You've got Sushi, you've got Dr. Calculus, you've got Kim down from the NACL. That's a big surprise if I've ever seen one. So a lot of starstruck talent has made their way onto this series, and it's going to be a banger, Slayer.
Yeah, certainly is going to be a banger. It's fun to see some more UCI fandom coming across there. Xiao Denny and Kim down, two members of that collegiate squad. And then you mentioned, I already saw somehow we had Duckies fans in the chat. There's only one Ducky in this entire series, which is Dr. Calculus. But, like we actually heard Sneezes talk about, the Blue Otter assistant coach on the Salt Mine podcast. You should listen to those episodes whenever they come out. He wanted to see some of these Ducky players on teams that weren't that 5 stack of the Duckies to show that they are better, that they can be, grow more than just that miracle run. So Dr. Calculus might have taken that to heart and decided to suit up with the Straw Hat Crew. But the draft is going underway, and we are just drafting heavy hitter frontliners and backline divers here. Mirage Alliance Baguette, they're going to B1 the Yone, some flexibility there, but Straw Hat Crew, they come back with their top side locked down with the Renekton and Sejuani in tow.
I almost feel like it's a bit of a statement coming out for Mirage Alliance Baguette, because this is almost certainly going to go in the mid lane. Adder has been known to play these really aggressive mid lane picks. Things like the Yasuo and the Yone in particular are kind of his forte. So this would be an absolute slam coming from them here, saying, we have a new mid laner. He is mechanically gifted. He will carry us with this pick. We do not care about saving it for counter. And we're just going to outhand you. And speaking of outhands, they pick up the Varus, the newly buffed champion in the bot lane, to pair up with a Poppy, which is also kind of another flex. A lot of people are still managing to find ways to put this in the support role. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see it down there. But of course, there's also the possibility that it can go in the quintessential top lane or jungle, where we're more used to seeing it.
Well, something we are used to seeing, Quacks, here on the Salt Mines ACL coverage is that Jinx. Zev had an MVP-like performance to close out an upset win for Chaotic Solar last night on that aforementioned Jinx. You know what you're getting with her every single time down the stretch, and it's going to be very, very fun to see that one come back out and around in the hands of Sushi, nonetheless. Didn't play too much Jinx on the qualifier and promotion tournament run, but then again, there were a lot better options at the AD carry role than Jinx. And that current moment, it felt like a bit more of a pocket pick due to composition. Jinx now a lot more powerful as we get into that second phase of bans. Leona catching a ban there. Straw Hat Crew, I wouldn't be surprised if we're just going to take away supports. Yep, and just try to pinch the pool left up there by Pocus.
The support role really is going to be something I'm interested to see going into this series because, we kind of want to loop back here to Sushi. This is a player that has been kind of in the mix with Mixture most of the year. And really, they have been kind of the dynamic duo in the bot lane for Lotus. And now seeing him with a different support in Kimdown is going to be really interesting. But something that people, might not know is that before Mixture and Sushi were the Batman and Robin of the Summer Open qualifiers, Sushi's support actually was Pocus. So this is the two of them meeting on opposite sides this time around. They know how the other likes to play, and I think that's just going to make this bot lane matchup super, super interesting.
Super interesting to get his first couple reps with Kimdown, who is going to just snag up the Nautilus here. So we'll get that key engage tool. Straw Hat Crew have a ton of engage. They have their front line really rounded out. This is shaping up to be your pretty traditional team fight comp. And if we pull back to the very few sample sizes of ACL games we have here, Quacks, in our stream last night, it's kind of what Chaotic Solar went for, simplicity in team fighting. And it got them a big win like we've talked about already. So I'm a fan of it with the small sample size we've already seen, but there are certainly a lot of ways to break that up. I think Mirage Alliance Baguette are doing just that. Yone is a great champion to break up a team fight composition like this, and Lilia certainly serves that purpose as well. Just a lot of flank angles these two champions alone can create.
Yeah, and we currently don't know what that last pick is. Actually, it is the Braum. I'm just seeing it on your stream right there, Slayer. So yeah, Braum Varus in the bot lane. Interesting to see how that's going to go out. Now, Zhao Danny going to be the last person to get a pick up here. And Zhao Danny, a player that really likes his AP champions, right? The Rumble being the hover here, but there are also a lot of options. Keep in mind, this is full Fearless, so you might not want to give your Syndras, your Aries, your LeBlancs away at the first game. But I would always, if I'm watching this series, I will always have those champions in the back of my mind with how aggressive these mid laners like to play. It's no surprise that we're seeing the Rumble and the Yone out first. Those are a little less traditional than what we're used to seeing, at least with, like you said, the small sample size of 14-19 in the ACL. But later down the line, I expect to see a lot of those bursty AP mages coming up, those ones that can abuse Storm Surge and really get into the back line and one-shot a lot of these AD carries.
Well, we got our draft rounded out here for game number 1, Quacks, and we'll see exactly how everything shapes up. Give us some more time to certainly talk about the stakes of this matchup, maybe give a bit of a preview to the Noxus group for anybody that isn't too familiar. Also helps that myself and Quacks were on the seeding committee for the ACL this time around, so we can kind of factor in our own judgments on how this group shaped up. Quacks, I don't know about you, but this Noxus group kind of seeded exactly how I expected them to. The one team that is technically seeded above these squads that we don't see here is the CCG Esport main roster, which is virtually the NACL team, CCG Esports. So CCG Esports were a tier 1 team for me. Straw Hat Crew were just below them, and then Mirage Alliance Baguette fell just a bit below. I'm curious if you share that same sentiment when it came to your seeding committee.
I mean, I 100% share that sentiment because I think if you look at the talent stacked up by Straw Crew, you could definitely make a case for this being kind of a tier 3 super team, right? You've got heavy hitters in the summer qualifier. Recency bias is going to kind of be there for me. Dr. Calculus and Sushi had absolutely monstrous performances in the summer. You've got Zhao Danny, who has always kind of been one of the mid laners that a lot of people like to talk about, regardless of whatever team he's on. He always kind of feels like a caged monster, and I'm hoping that when you have a squad like this surrounding you, you can kind of uncage that beast and really get going. And it seems like with this draft, that's kind of the idea of the Straw Hat Crew, but they've also got a lot of facilitators, right? Frost Forest coming out of retirement for one last job, was a coach for Lotus for a majority of the year, I believe. Now going back into the jungle mixed with Kimdown, who's got that NACL experience, who is a veteran in his own right. This really feels like the perfect blend of veterancy, talent, new players, and all around just amazing roster building that we love to see in the ACL. And I think, this team on paper really is going to fit into that tier 2 team. It's just a question of, can this team be one of the good super teams that really makes good results happen? Or are they going to be, your Vitality with Alfari and your Team Liquid that got upset by EG? Because we've seen super teams crash and burn on the biggest stage. And I certainly don't want to see Straw Hat Crew, with how much talent they've got, end up like them.
Yeah, certainly the floor for these two teams is making the playoffs. The ceiling is maybe challenging CCG Esports for that crown of Noxus Division champion. Unfortunately, CCG Esport drew the week 1 bye, so likely your strongest team going into week 2 going to be whoever comes out on top of this matchup. And speaking more about these players, I've always been a bit of a homer, of a fan of Xiao Denny for a very long time, and this guy's been getting better every single split. It seems like he reached his highest peak with that Gentle Hearts roster. People forget, they played a lot of close games. They had some ugly losses in Swiss nonetheless. I'll give him that, but still made it to top 8 with a very, very young core roster. And Xiao Denny playing in a meta, Quacks, that just really didn't support his champion pool. And now, with the Wild Wild West of 14-19, certainly feels like we are back to that sort of status. But as I see all the champions locked in here on the client side, I know you guys can't see it at home, we're actually seeing Xiao Denny playing Renekton mid. I don't think I've ever seen this guy play Renekton mid once. So something is definitely being cooked up by Straw Hat Crew.
I think this was a typical counter back in, I believe it was Season 9. A lot of people who were playing Yasuo mid would get counterpicked by the Renekton. And Yone, he's the brother of Yasuo, and he's also kind of similar in playstyle to that of Yasuo. So I think, hey, if the boot fits, we could be seeing a potential hidden counter here from the Renekton being piloted by Xiao Denny. And I think it's going to be up to Mirage Alliance to really kind of gauge how much of a threat this Renekton can be in this mid lane, because this is a squad, or rather an organization, that is essentially doing what 100 Thieves did to the Golden Guardians roster. They're essentially acquiring all the pieces of AMI minus that mid lane and trying to build from the already, preset synergy that this squad has. And that's what I think really came through in our series yesterday, Slayer, was already having these players play together, having that synergy already locked. I think will give Mirage Alliance an advantage going into the first couple of weeks. But Straw Hat Crew, they're no strangers to playing with some big members, and they also have got, a lot of veterancy, like we talked about, in their squad. So I certainly think that there is an angle where Straw Hat Crew can really make an upset here, regardless of Mirage Alliance's ability to already have that communication down and ready.
It certainly feels like we both believe this should be a 3-game series that either team can come out and take. So that's what we'll hope for after a sweep from yesterday. But speaking on that synergy, there is still some synergy on the Straw Hat Crew side. Like I talked about, Xiao Denny and Kim Down, they've been playing at UCI together for years by this point, so they have a lot of familiarity there. And then Frost Force, while Frost is back in the jungle role, not coaching, obviously was a big-time coach, was alongside Sushi for that entire Lotus run over the qualifiers. Super cool to see, despite the fact that we've had such meta shifts, especially in roles like AD carry and the jungle and the support roles. We still get to see some tried and true big-time champions from some of these big-time players, like the most improved player from the summer qualifiers, Dr. Calculus. If there was one champion that was synonymous with his name most, Quacks, it was this Rumble that we will see pilot in that top lane.
For sure. Dr. Calculus, second, I believe, best top laner voted for in the second Summer Open qualifier, most improved, and he earned both of those awards. He really was the man in the top lane to beat. He was the talk of the town. That entire Ducky Getter squad was really the talk of the town. But Dr. Calculus was the talk of the Ducky Getters as well. So he really was, I think, the biggest surprise, going into that tournament. And a lot of critics that I've talked to around the ecosystem have said that there is a chance that this could just be a one-hit wonder coming from him, right? Because before this tournament, we've seen him in, the CLOL tournament. We've seen him in other mediums before, and he wasn't nearly as impressive. So the question becomes, can he get that repeat success that he had in the second summer qualifier and the promotion tournament as well? I would say he was very good in, or was that really just a one-off thing? And is Dr. Calculus, just kind of inconsistent, but when that peak hits, he can really get good.
We'll see if Dr. Calculus can continue to prove everybody that he is a legit top lane talent and to prove that the Straw Hat Crew are not to be messed with in Noxus. We're going to take a short technical break here to just set everything up, but in just about a minute, folks, we'll be live from Summoner's Rift. Game number 1, Mirage Alliance Baguette taking on the Straw Hat Crew. Told you it'd be quick, folks. Here we are live for game number 1. The first real look at the Noxus group here in the ACL Fall 2024 split. Mirage, Alliance, Baguette looking to not mess around early as they are already going for the 5-stack and they are already targeting Dr. Calculus on his patent rumble, but he spots out Decoy first, sniffs there's something awry, backs up once, backs up twice, even dodges the Seeker's Ward there. So Invade spotted out here early. Good information gained.
Good little bit of spacing there coming out from Dr. Calculus, but he does realize that all the members of Mirage Alliance are in this area, so that gives, as you can see, the rest of Straw Hat Crew the ability to place in some cheeky deep wards, really get information as to where Lojaz is. I'm not going to be calling him Best Turtle NA. That is Lojaz. I don't care if it's Ben Guy, Best Turtle NA. He's Lojaz, ladies and gentlemen, and he is going to get tracked up here by Straw Hat Crew with these wards. So that is very important to have, especially when you're going against a champion like Lilia, who is known for those full clears, who is known to be a carry jungle. If you know where it is, then you can be very reactive on the other side.
Certainly can be, and yeah, I've seen a lot of names for Lojaz, but his name's getting called here because they've caught Frost Force going for this red buff level 1. The coach turned jungler just fail flashes over the wall. That stings deep. And that is first blood for Mirage Alliance Baguette.
That's gotta hurt, absolutely. Frost Forest likely not too happy about that one, and Straw Hat Crew likely not too happy about the swap that we appear to be seeing here coming out by Mirage Alliance Baguette in the solo lanes. Adder is actually in the top lane while Decoy is in the mid lane, so that's a mid lane Poppy and a top lane Yone with Grasp.
Yeah, so great adaptation there, there by Mirage Alliance Baguette to make sure that they don't have to deal with that Yone Renekton counter. And yeah, why not? Yone is just as much of a flex pick as you feel like Poppy is. Usually it's not Poppy mid, but a flex pick nonetheless. Something going right for Straw Hat Crew in the early stage. Is this a new famed, very strong bottom lane we're excited for? Kim Down and Sushi able to grab level 2 first, get some solid poke damage down.
And we're starting to see kind of the importance of having a champion like Nautilus. It gives you that early shove. It basically means that while Frost Force can't really make an aggressive play up toward that bot side where we see Lojaz in, he can farm safely. So at the very least, after such a rough start, you know, beggars can't be choosers. You can ask just for having a relatively quiet early game after such a turbulent start if you're the Sejuani.
Certainly are happy if you're Lojaz, as Lilia is very much a carry threat in that jungle. Now feels confident they can just go for this full clear. Should have a serious camp lead as well. Maybe not, though. We do see Frost is pinging towards that enemy topside jungle, so we'll take his opportunity to force the vertical jungle that was, well, Quack's forced on him, actually.
And I think with Zhao Dandy moving, you can see the pings coming out there from Mirage Alliance Baguette. They recognize that the Sejuani, mixed in most likely with the Renekton, is in the jungle looking to take away some camps. Luckily, though, Lojaz is close to level 4. Doesn't really need to greed one too many camps as he got some from the other side just a couple of minutes ago. So while the blue buff is nice for Frost Forest, it's not going to hurt the Lilia's scaling too much, I think, at the end of the day. So still a relatively in-control game for Mirage Alliance Baguette.
Another development in the wild world of 80 carries that certain high-caliber Tier 2 players have made known on Twitter they hate so much is the lethal tempo return. You see both the Vars and Jinx sporting it. As a big stun does come out there from Pocus on to Kim Down, so they'll be able to get some trade damage back over. But we thought this may happen with the lethal tempo returning, Quacks, and it's exactly what has happened. Most of these champions looking to use it. Hold on, though. More bot lane skirmishing. Pocus forced to flash over the Chompers. Frost Force is here looking to try and get the stun lined up. Onto the Braum. One more auto. The stun comes across. The shield goes up, and Sushi just can't burn through it in time. And with the turret shot, Bazby finds a dream of a turn. Sushi drops so close to that reset, but so far at the same time.
And the Unbreakable, the Guardian coming up from Pocus, keeping him alive and baiting in Straw Hat Crew too deep. Baz managing to get his first kill of the game. What a survival escape there from the Braum, and now they'll likely be able to push in this wave. You can see that Lojaz and Decoy have both moved up toward this top side. They're looking to punish Sushi and Kim Down, but both of those bot laners have summoners, so at the end of the day, they are just going to be there to make sure this wave gets crashed under the tower.
Man, I wonder if they would have thought about a dive onto Sushi even with summoners if they saw Kim Down had reset, but like you mentioned, there's a wave to be caught mid there for Decoy. so he'll move on up and grab that. Xiao Danny doing a good job at least starting to establish somewhat of a CS lead, but 2 early kills, an early serious gold advantage in the hands of Mirage Alliance Baguette.
Really good early gameplay, especially against a team like Straw Hat Crew, who basically, like we've said a couple of times, is essentially Apex Mission Impossible light, right? This is essentially a team that's super good at the early game, so it's no surprise to see them dominating early on here. But the question becomes, you know, are they going to be able to transition this to later on into the game? That was kind of always their kryptonite when we looked at them in the Summer Open Qualifier, something that always kept them from getting to that top 4 finish in the Summer OQs. But this time around, you know, you've got more competition, you've got a new mid laner, you've got a new meta, and now you've got fight in the mid lane.
And he got a crazy dredge line from Kim down. It's going to secure Xiao Danny a big kill with the dominance. Decoy is far too low as well with Sushi on the reset. Flashing forward in the new lethal tempo. Does not get him that kill. Not enough damage there. Decoy will slip away, but Kim down, leaving his NACL mark on this series already.
Sushi likely cursing 14-19, saying if it was 14-18, I would have gotten the kill there. But unfortunately, it was a small pocket that Decoy managed to survive in. All the while, though, Frostforce managing to pick up those grubs. So although the kills are not favoring them, the objectives are starting to.
Oh, bad speed. Looking to check Sushi coming back to lane. The big wave crashing in. Does not have that flash anymore. Committed it aggressively, so just has the cleanse to check the chains of corruption. Dredge line once again going to land from Kim down, but Pocus has been very good with that unbreakable shield. And we'll see if Frost Force being nearby presents a gank opportunity. Pink ward spotted. No level 6 for Frost Force, so no Glacial Prison means just force the MAB bottom lane off the wave.
And Frost Force having a lot of camps to pick up there toward the bot side, so he'll be able to stick around, likely will be able to unlock that Glacial Prison in just a couple, I would say about a minute's time. Maybe look for an additional gank down there in the bot lane. There was a control ward placed, but it could prove good, and just trying to get some pressure back here on the bot side, relieving some from Sushi, who, like you mentioned, does not have that flash, so he's not really able to play aggressively until we get some help from the rest of the squad.
We'll see how these two squads decide to start stacking up for these neutral objectives, as we do have a dragon still on the plate. Did not notice that I would assume Frost Force was able to actually grab those first 3 grubs pretty uncontested. So advantage there. Quaxton, we talked a lot about how coaches would rather have those first 2 sets of grubs and then the first 2 drakes. Frost Force might be able to pilot his team into having both the first 2 neutral objectives.
Certainly. Frost Forest, having been away from the jungle role so long, but the fundamentals still very clearly there for him as a jungler, able to get those neutrals, able to work around the team and the strong members, i.e. Sushi and Xiao Danny, who are starting to really become threats, I would say. Obviously, Sushi does not have that flash, but you always got to respect the Jinx. Like right now.
Kim down again, throws Pocus under the turret. The depth charge knockup is enough, and Kim down certainly deserving of that kill, in all honesty. Dragon is secured in the background by Low Jazz, but it's Kim down's game to play right now, it feels like, for the Straw Hat Crew.
Oh yeah, Kim down came to tier 3 to play. Hook, line, and sinker manages to secure that kill. And a little bit of pressure being relieved here into the bot side for Straw Hat Crew, but still, as in relative control of the wave. Low Jazz is still in the area after taking that dragon, which is probably why Kim down has not tried to look for a kill yet. But Xiao Danny popping the Dominus just to clear the wave, it looks like.
Yeah, potential top lane excursion, but looks like Adder is playing safely enough that Frost Forest does not want any of the smoke there towards the top side. A lot of gank setup, it seems like, in multiple lanes. We won't have any of it really pop off. Low Jazz still hovering towards this bot side. Curious if they're going to try and upset these resets. You can see Low Jazz has his eyes marked onto Sushi. Throws out the Swirl Seed, making them known that a potential dive is on the way. Lilting Lullaby onto 2. There's the cleanse from Sushi, but his health bar still is far too low. Glacial Fissure is going to whiff Sushi, trying to play right around the turret, but he is far too low. The Chains of Corruption won't snag him. It snags Kim down, but it's a double back to Low Jazz. 3-1 on this Lilia in the early phase for MIB.
Good patience coming out there from MAB as well. They realized that Sushi had that cleanse available, so they utilized the sleep, and they managed to get it away. The wave crashes, and Xiao Danny just a little too late to the play, not quite there to react. But likely, if that Renekton was there, could have been a different story entirely. But the story spells that MAB are getting some advantages in the bot side, and especially have found an advantage through this Lilia.
How about Adder, the young gun, doing a really good job recognizing, hey, we're pulling so much towards the bot side here to try and get on Sushi and Kim down. I need to play as safe as I possibly can. Yes, it sucks giving up these waves, maybe giving up a plate to Dr. Calculus, but as long as I don't die, it's not a good trade at the end of the day. It just takes a bit of a licking from Phosphorus. You could tell Quacks that Frost really wanted to try and get on top of Adder there, but could not find the opportunity. This time he'll settle for a grub take.
And the Grub's likely going to go uncontested. You can see that Logias and Focus are trying to get some pockets of vision, but they don't have the ultimates up. They don't have the numbers, but they get caught out anyway.
Yeah, because Phosphorus does have the ultimates. Focus throws up the Unbreakable Shield teleport coming behind. All of Mirage Alliance are showing up here, but the knockdowns are coming across. There's a beautiful equalizer across, and the rocket lands through. Here comes the Straw Hat crew. They have the ultimates to fight, and boy, are they showing it. Adder going to drop to Sushi as well, and the rest of the Baguette squad scattered to the wayside.
Yeah, Mirage really overstaying their welcome there. They didn't have the ultimates available. They didn't have the numbers, and just like that, they get picked off one by one. It's a 6-grub advantage over to the side of Straw Hat crew. And what a beautiful flank there from Zhao Danny. The equalizer was amazing from Dr. Calculus, but the dominance, the power of this Renekton pick in these flanks, there's a reason why this champion is so popular. It's because when that ultimate gets clicked, everybody runs and hides in fear. And Mirage Alliance Baguette, unfortunately, they didn't have anywhere to run or hide.
What a start for Zhao Danny. Talk about how he has really found a way to improve every split after split in the qualifiers. Playing so many unique champions in these last couple of months, had to adapt to the marksman mid-meta as a mage player. Now pulling out the Renekton as a counter pick that he didn't even get to play in the counter pick with the Poppy matching up. Kim down, looking to find Low Jazz, the big gold holder of the Mirage Alliance Baguette side, and there's that new lethal tempo to find the kill there. Sushi gets another one, gets excited, starts taking plates as well. It's just gold injection after gold injection right now for the Straw Hat crew, and they might be looking for more.
And if you wanted to see what a Tier 2 support looked like in the Tier 3 ecosystem, look no further than Kim down. A beautiful flank onto Lojaz, and suddenly the win con of the Lilia, the champion that started out 3-1, has found itself 3-3. The win con has been stunted. It has been stopped.
Oh,
the question is, can Mirage Alliance start it up again? The question might be no.
No stun on to the Varus here. It whiffs just to the side. The broad pass that comes out, but the rocket still sinks through. Sushi goes on a killing spree. There's just too much raw damage in this Straw Hat crew right now for Mirage Alliance to answer.
And 4 members down in the bot lane. 4 turrets taken on this bot tier turret. The Dragon coming up in a little less than a minute, and Kim down once more.
He's at it again. Can they burn through Pocus's shield? They get the roots, they get the knockups. The Braum very strong. The zap isn't enough. No, there's a big Keeper's Verdict as well from Decoy. Knocks 3 up and finds Sushi in the fray. Huge gold injection back towards Decoy. Maybe Straw Hat crew biting off more than they could really chew.
And I think that this just completely swung the totem pole potentially in Mirage Alliance Baguette's favor, as, hang on, got Lojaz looking for a kill onto Dr. Calculus.
Scrap after scrap, skirmish after skirmish. Lojaz certainly has enough damage. The equalizer has to come out on top of the wave, but Dr. Calculus might just get soloed out here by the might of Lojaz. Jukes into the Swirl Seed. What a predict there from Lojaz, back in the kill department.
Dr. Calculus punching air after that one. He walks back into the Swirl Seed and becomes food for the Lilia. But no real threat on this Dragon now just spawning. The Chemtech Soul, or rather the Chemtech Dragon, making itself known on the Rift along with the Rift Herald. But no interest really being put by either of these teams in the neutrals. I say that, and Frost immediately pivots on toward that Herald.
We do have the Scuttle Crab to spot out the vision, but it doesn't seem that Lojaz wants anything to do with it, so Pig's going to the other side of the map, and how about Frostforce? A disastrous start, but he's been able to control every single neutral objective towards that Baron Pit to start.
Why does Frostforce have 2 Giant's belts?
That is a question that you're supposed to answer. I have no answer for it.
Is there an item that builds into 2? I know the recipes were recently changed. Maybe we'll find out. Regardless, though, it was a good Herald take there by Frostforce, immediately recognizing that they can use this Herald in order to force a response from Mirage Alliance Baguette, and they can move on down toward that Dragon. Whether or not the Herald hits, kind of a bit of an irrelevant point, as long as it's able to draw the members of MAB toward it and able to draw them away from the Dragon. It's a worth it trade at the end of the day, as they might not even need the Herald. As Frostforce, this man is the neutral objective merchant. We're really seeing the coach come through here in his gameplay.
Yeah, he recognizes the timings, the windows that his team have given towards him. And once again, feel like a broken record a little bit. Uncontested neutral take there. The Drake counts evened up for an Ocean Soul in game number 1.
Ocean Soul, valuable across the board, really. It's kind of hard to get a comp that doesn't utilize this soul well. I feel like every single champion can at least somewhat make use of this soul. I say that, and a little bit of aggression coming out there from Dr. Calculus. Has the Sork Shoes available, so is starting to really deal some damage to these tankier members on the side of Mirage Alliance. Baguette, Ping's coming out into the middle lane, and MAB want to try and get some pressure on this mid lane, but it really feels difficult without those grubs, without the Herald. You really have no way to threaten any towers across the map.
So what we talked about in draft, right, is it's hard to kind of knock down Straw Hat Crew when they're pretty smartly grouped up. It feels like splitting the map in a lot of ways should open up the game for Mirage Alliance Baguette, but right now, you talked about having that former coach in your comms in the jungle role. Everybody on Straw Hat Crew played pretty resolved, recognizing we're just waiting for item power spikes on our Fed Jinx. With Sushi, we have this Renekton to play through as well. It's really hard to punish Zhao Danny on those side lanes, and as long as Dr. Calculus stays safe, not a lot of the game opening up here for Mirage Alliance Baguette.
And I like the positioning coming out here from Straw Hat Crew. You talked about wanting to get Sushi those item spikes, get him as much gold as possible. They're just having him sit by himself in the mid lane. You can see Kim Down is fishing for some kills, fishing for some hooks, and managing to find where Lojaz and Ko are. Now, maybe looking for an aggressive play. No, he's just going to take the ward. But this is exactly what we like to see whenever a team has Sushi. You know he's a reliable carry. You know he's on a reliable carry champion in the Jinx as well. Just allowing him to get this gold, these resources, really going to propel them forward as this game goes on. We're only 17 minutes in, and it feels like every minute that passes, the more and more gold this Jinx gets, it's a harder job for Mirage Alliance Baguette to really punch back.
Nobody knows that more than Zev from the Chaotic Solar win yesterday. We figured out what builds 2 Giants belts. We're all learning today, folks. It's Heartsteel.
So Heartsteel.
Frost Forest, first item Heartsteel. Don't think you see that normally on Sejuani, but like we talked about, it's a whole new game of League.
Certainly is. But some things never change. And it's looking like the importance of the mid tower is going to be priority number 1 here for Straw Hat Crew. They place that down in mid lane. I don't think this is going to kill it directly on the charge, but it certainly will, yeah, chunk it out and make the job of taking it down a lot easier on the Straw Hat Crew.
I like this matchup. You can see Zhao Danny has found a jump onto Adder. The Glacial Prison lands. Fate Seal dash for Adder. Is there any flashes? No. Zhao Danny and Frost Force already committed them. So the young gun mid laner for the side of Mirage Alliance Baguette going to survive. And Frost Force very, very low. See if Lojaz can find another swirl seed angle this time. Dashes to safety, but a ton of pink still coming down. Pocus roaming over, but no dice.
Lojaz maybe wanting to go for an aggressive play there, had the flash available to maybe get the pick onto Frost Forest, but I think he recognized that if he went in there, it could be a one-way trip, as Zhao Danny was just sitting right there, kind of playing Protect the President. So smart little bit of resolve there from the Lilia, not to really throw your lead away, especially when it's been a rough couple of 10 minutes. It really feels like Straw Hat Crew have maintained a solid lead over Mirage Alliance Baguette ever since they've been able to roam around the map, and a lot of that is in part to Kim Down on this Nautilus. It really feels like he's present everywhere all at once and making it very difficult for Mirage Alliance Baguette to get any kind of plays that could propel them forward in this game.
You know, one way to tell if a player has been everywhere, if they have total kill participation. That's exactly what Kim Down has. 6 of 6 KP for the Straw Hat Crew. And I really like these lane assignments too, by the way, as we talk about the rotations here. Zhao Danny, I mean, there's no way that he ever loses a 1v1 currently to Adder, has those 2 items. And then you have on the other side a full tank decoy into this Rumble. There's just not enough damage to really threaten Dr. Calculus. And like you mentioned, Sushi feels pretty safe just catching mid-wave after mid-wave because he scales harder than this Varus. So it's just a real lockout right now from Straw Hat Crew, waiting until they have enough items where they can just team fight into the win. And they just force Pocus to dive into Chompers. Does drop the Glacial Fissure just to keep himself safe.
Yeah, that Glacial Fissure being popped means that I won't be available for this Dragon coming up in a little less than a minute, and a big engage tool now being lost here by Mirage Alliance Baguette!
What a catch there from Frost Force. Didn't even let Bazby move. Drops in an instant, so does the mid-tier 1 turret. And with those grubbies in tow, they're just going to keep pushing the tempo onto the mid-tier 2 turret as well. No movement from Decoy to try and join up to stop this assault onto the turret. Big amount of gold comes in piles for the Straw Hat crew. 2 turrets and a big kill onto Bazby. And Quacks, you called it exactly what they can turn to with that Dragon spawning.
Yeah, they're going to the Dragon, and you can see Decoy is there on the side, maybe trying to look for a flank angle, but really, what kind of flank are you going to get at the end of the day? No, he has been spotted, it seems, here by Frost Force. The Xiao Danny might have spotted out Pocus, but I think that Celestial Celestial Opposition, sorry, is going to keep him alive, but 2 Dragons for the Straw Hat crew. Now it really feels like their carries are getting closer and closer to coming online. And a lot of these picks really are in part to Frost Force and Kimdown. We talked about it. Having this backup is so important. Having this veterancy on your squad is so important. This mix of, experience really is what can bring teams to that next level. And we're seeing it. Prime example right here in Straw Hat crew.
You can start to see now the item difference coming through between these main carries. Clear advantage for Xiao Danny into Adder. Has that Black Cleaver and that Stride Breaker, just reinforcing such a tough front line to deal with. And then Sushi, like we talked about, has the Phantom Dancer Kraken Slayer done. Going to play for that heal cut, but clear item lead into Bazby as well.
And it really feels like the carries, like Baz that you were mentioning, have struggled in this game, outside of that laning phase where they managed to get a few advantages. Low Jazz and Baz in particular, it feels so difficult to get into any of these fights because the moment you show your face, the moment you're not in fog of war from the players of Straw Hat crew, you get dredge-lined, you get depth charged, you get locked up by the Renekton. There's so many pick tools on the side of Straw Hat crew that just make it so difficult to play kind of a shorter range carry like the Varus, like the Lilia, that need to be, kind of more up in your face in order to deal damage.
Well, Jess, certainly looking to get in the face of Frost Force. They're playing a good old-fashioned ward war over this river brush as all teams direct their attention towards this barren pit. That's where Dr. Calculus is trying to thrive on these side lanes. Like we talked about, the one side of the map we haven't seen much of because Dr. Calculus has been unrelenting, trying to force wave after wave in and making sure Decoy has to respond.
And I wonder if maybe this is the kind of thing that the Straw Hat crew want to use to pull the trigger on the Baron, right? They see a Decoy, they spot him out on the bot side, they recognize that the Poppy is not there, so there is no ejection from the pit so long as Decoy can't make his way over there. And I think it's going to be up to Dr. Calculus to just try and lay the hurt on a lot of these people that are trying to stop him in the side lane, because at some point they get any kind of advantage, they get any kind of pick if they are Dr. Calculus, and they're going to turn it right back onto that Nasher. You can see the vision really favoring them right now. They really want to try and get that objective. They just need, at some point, for Mirage Alliance to Baguette to slip up and get caught.
Neither team really willing to give that slight edge at all. But it is Straw Hat crew that have wrestled control back over of that barren side of the map. Dr. Calculus really starting to stat check Decoy with these flame spitters. It's actually going to signal a start here on the Baron for SHC.
But Decoy, having to go for the reset, has the opportunity to go potentially for a TP to join up with his team. There is that ward you can see in the topside pixel bush that could maybe open up an angle for this Poppy. But now Dr. Calculus is resetting. Hold on, we got to fight.
Teleports galore. Both top laners going to try and jump in and join. Glacial Prison used to just hold Pocus at bay, as they don't want to look for a turn. The target now being marked. Xiao Denny pops the Dominus. There's the big bad Croc in the middle of 4. The Equalizer down, but they pop him. Xiao Denny gets none of his damage. Now Dark Calculus has to fend for the hills. Runs away as Bazby is trying to step up, but all of Straw Hat crew have to kite back here. Sushi and Taupe just having to burn flashes after flashes as the Renekton does not get its value for the first time all game.
Yeah, and a little bit of an overzealous, overhyped play there coming out from the Straw Hat crew. They wanted to just try and see if they could burst down the Baron, but they didn't expect Mirage Alliance Baguette to be on them so fast. Now the tables have turned. It's a 4v5. You can see Frost Force is potentially on the flank looking for an angle to maybe go in, but it's difficult. But maybe Adder going in has provided them the chance they need.
Stun onto Kimdown, flashes the wall for now. Lilting Lullaby, they have it onto Sushi. Does have the cleanse though. Will be able to kite back. But low on mana, low on health. Control seceded to Mirage Alliance Baguette.
So no one dying at the end of that fight. A little bit of sneaky gameplay coming out there from Frost Forest. The big thing, though, is that Lilting Lullaby was used by Low Jazz. So Dragon coming up in a little less than a minute means they won't have that. And that's a big ultimate to have in these big team fights. Meanwhile, Xiao Danny now back on the Rift will have that dominance available. So all of the tools are coming off a cooldown for Straw Hat Crew. And it's really going to be difficult, I think, for Mirage Alliance to respond and try to react because they managed to get a pick, but they utilized so many resources in order to do so. This time around, I don't think the picture is the same. They might just have to give it Slayer.
We'll have to see, as these two teams have been poking, prodding, and daring for this game to break open. Gold lead still in the hands of Straw Hat Crew. Dragon number 3 on the Ocean tally, spawning soon, and this is what always spreads these team fight-based teams thin. Frost Force, though, does catch out Adder, has to use the Fate Seal, doesn't get far enough back, has to commit his flash as well. The big Yone forced out of the fight, equalizer down from Dark Calculus. They really want to burn through the Yone, but this time Xiao Danny stands up tall and jumps into all of the team ferociously, and the resets come through for Sushi. Looks like we're watching Chaotic Solar from yesterday. One reset, fight win for the team with the Jinx.
And Special Agent Frost Forest coming up big yet again. These flank angles are so huge from the Sejuani. He was at risk of death at certain points in that fight, but his team backs him up. Xiao Danny with the dominance manages to create the space, and now 2 are down for Mirage Alliance Baguette. They cannot contest this Baron. They're going to try and see if they can go for something on the Dragon side. TP is being committed by Adder, but maybe they're too late. Maybe there's not enough time. And it looks like Straw Hat Crew have no interest in actually going for a contest.
No interest at all. They'll give over the Dragon, prioritizing resets, spiking up items, and then getting into a set that they want to play with this Baron. They've already done a pretty good job, though, knocking down a lot of key turrets here. Only one Mirage Alliance Baguette turret still sitting outside of the base. You can see Dark Calculus already pinging and marking it as his next victim.
For sure. I love that Dr. Calculus has been such a menace on the sideline, constantly putting Decoy at the forefront of his as his opponent. Really, it feels like the top lane 1v1 has transcended just the lane. I mean, we're 27 minutes into the game and they're just constantly fighting each other. Kim down, the shenanigans taking him and netting him a little bit of damage, but they don't want to mess with the Nautilus. They don't want to go down, and it's just going to be them backing up.
It's almost like you see Kim down alone, assume he's not alone. That's how confident this guy plays, just walking around, waddling around. And hey, it wasn't just Dr. Calculus who decided to join the party towards the bot side. It's 4 members of Straw Hat Crew. Decoy does not cast the Keeper's Verdict to try and knock anyone away for now. Doesn't mean he has that shorter cooldown. But this turret doesn't seem long for the world with those Baron-empowered cannon minions just thumping it.
And reset activated for Sushi. Maybe going to try and lay down some poke. You can see Xiao Danny in the mid lane just keeping his opponent as Bazby just having to react to all of these waves being shoved in. And without really any kind of poke, it feels like the Varus really is that champion that can hit you from long range on the squad of Mirage Alliance Baguette. They don't really have a way to punish, but maybe they found one.
They're going for Frost Forest. He just sat a little too far forward, got the Brittle Stack stun coming across, and almost an easy kill for Mirage Alliance Baguette. Really key, though, to slow down this Baron from the Straw Hat Crew.
I apologize for the caster curse, ladies and gentlemen. I said it was going to be hard for them to pick off a member. 2 seconds later, they pick off a member in Frost Forest. But it really feels like this is kind of just delaying how strong of a group this squad can be, because eventually they're going to get, you know, as a 5-man group. Every single team fight we've seen, Straw Hat Crew have been on it. They've been on top of it, and it really feels like Mirage Alliance Baguette, their entire comp is reliant on their ability to go into engage, to keep them at like an arm's length whenever they're hitting them. And that's exactly what Straw Hat Crew want to do. They are more than happy to take these fights when they've got the Renekton, when they've got that dominance, when they've got so many lockdown tools in their inventory. So realistically, those picks are how they're going to win the game. But how many more of those realistically are you going to get?
How many more of those are you going to get? It seems like I thought we were going to have to go to the caster desk because we had a pause, but I am currently sitting at 0 seconds to get back in, so that is a bit of an intriguing spot to be at. I don't think I've ever seen this. I'm not familiar with getting stuck.
Oh, we're back.
Okay, we're back. Well, we're half back, Quacks, because you and I both know exactly what's going to be thrown our way, and maybe I can predict this. 3, 2, 1.
1.
Oh.
Nope. Nope.
Have we finally evolved past the Riot second freeze? There's no way.
Okay, now 3, 2, 1. Boom.
Is it actually?
Really? Maybe we have.
Oh my god. Wait.
Riot Split 3 has saved us.
That has existed for as long as I've been a caster, I think. And now it doesn't? And nobody updated, nobody from Riot was like, hey, we fixed the fact that it freezes after you pause. That's wild.
The best change of Split 3. Everything in 14-19 is completely void, except for this change. As casters, we love to see it. And as casters, we also like to see some intense games of League of Legends, which is exactly what we are getting here. We're nearing the 30-minute mark, and I feel like this timer is kind of where we would look at a squad like AMI and be like, okay, this is the time where they usually throw themselves into the fire no matter how much of a good early game they've had. This game, though, it feels like MAB, who are, like we've said, 4/5 of AMI, are not really in control of the game. They're 4K gold down. Dragons are even, so there is still a win con there. But with how proactive Kimdown and Frostforce have been over the past, say, 20 minutes, it feels so difficult to walk up past where you have vision and try to go scouting for any sort of picks.
Hey, Quacks, that's a great point because it just feels like, in simplicity terms, we haven't seen a fight where Mirage, Alliance, Baguette have gotten to start it on their own terms. It has always been the Straw Hat crew forcing their will. We haven't seen a big Fate Sealed across the back line, or Lojaz able to find key lilting lullabies, a Keeper's Verdict from Decoy that can eject maybe some of the front line. It's always been, like you mentioned, Kimdown or Frost Forest pushing the issue. And at some point, if that keeps up, you're just going to lose the game for Mirage, Alliance, and Baguette unless there's a mistake on that engage from the Straw Hat crew.
And it feels like a mistake is prone to happen at this point in the game. We're at a little bit of a stalemate. Basically, Straw Hat Crew have been trying to knock down these gates, knock down the door on these objectives that Mirage Alliance Baguette have, you know, with a 4-1 comp, usually putting Dr. Calculus in the side lane. But it feels like Decoy has always been there to react, or Baz has always been there to react. And so far, at least over the past 5 minutes, it hasn't really netted a significant difference. And now, less than a minute away from the Dragon, we've got some item spikes coming in through for the Mirage Alliance Baguette squad members, like Baz, getting this Terminus now. There could potentially be a bit of a flip here. I think this is an angle for them to potentially come back in this game. You're even on drag counts. You're getting closer and closer in gold. Straw Hat Crew haven't really been able to take an objective for a while, haven't really been able to inject gold into their carries for a decent amount of time. So there's a window. The question is, can Mirage Alliance take it, and can they do something with it?
I definitely agree. This is their best item-wise point to try and force a fight. It's not a 3 versus 2 item difference. Those carries and the tanks with Decoy have 3 tank items, 3 damage items complete. It's only Adder that is behind. Sure. Potentially could be seeing a fight come through for Adder. They're going on a Frost Force once more with the Sejuani, but here comes the turn. All the ultimates drop through. It's Equalizer that just melts through that back line. The Lilting Lullaby is just too late for Lojaz. He goes into the stasis, but he pops out to find all of his teammates down. It's just Decoy and Lojaz left up, and a mid lane open for Straw Hat Crew to find the execution for game number 1.
Those of you calling Dr. Calculus a one-hit wonder in summer, it's time to change your minds. A beautiful equalizer to re-engage the fight, and suddenly Straw Hat Crew are running for the base. They're running for the Nexus. They're running for game 1, and Zhao Denny with no stun cannot stop the TP. They might just get an inhibitor here, but the Rumble makes the difference at the end of the day.
And he's not stopping. He knocks down his own bot lane in the inner turret. Maybe not a little too cautious to go for the inhibitor itself. An equalizer to do anything but equalize this matchup as the stalemate is finally broken. Ocean Soul Point as well claimed in the background for Straw Hat Crew.
Beautiful job from Straw Hat Crew. Beautiful job from Dr. Calculus to break the stalemate that we've been seeing for the past 5 to 7 minutes. They've got Ocean Soul Point secured. All of them coming back from the base. TP coming in there from Zhao Danny. It was spotted out by Mirage Alliance Baguette. They're trying to get a pick but good patience there from the Renekton, not stepping up too far forward. We'll wait for the rest of his team to engage. And I have to think in a 5v5 scenario, Slayer, it's going to be what we just saw a minute ago. But hang on, they might have picked him.
Yep, stuns, Shades of Corruption. The Dominus gives him some health back. Another good equalizer. Zhao Danny gets out for only a moment because Adder jumps through, executes him, and gets to Sushi. We were waiting for the Yoni to pop off, and boy, did Adder find a moment. Grabs 2 huge kills and completely batters the Straw Hat crew.
Yeah, Basby and Adder respectively managing to find some picks, and now they have themselves a 4v3 situation. Frost Force is still alive. He still has the flash. He still has the smite. There is all of the tools available for the side of Straw Hat Crew to turn this, or if they want to go for a steal, they can do that. But the question is the damage. All of their carries have been taken down. Dr. Calculus, really the big target that's available, and now it's going to be the one that causes Mirage Alliance Baguette to back off, as they will not finish the Baron.
Low Jazz hits the Swirl Seed on to Dr. Calculus. That squishy rumble. The sleep comes across. Dr. Calculus far too low. Turns with the Flame Splitter, but it's thrown into the wall. Decoy sets him up for failure. And all the damage dealers executed now on the Straw Hat Crew side.
But look at the base. Look at how many minions are flooding in toward that side of the map. It's causing Mirage Alliance Baguette to go for the back to try and defend, to make sure those structures don't get knocked down so they can't go on the Baron at the end of the day. It's just a few quick kills going over to Mirage Alliance Baguette, but no objective to boot.
No objective. They can't get onto the Baron, but maybe we've finally seen Mirage Alliance Baguette fight a fight on their terms. Get that pick first, use their setup, and let Adder get to the back line, sealing the fate of Sushi once more. Still, though, somewhat behind. We have 4 item spikes now coming through for some of these main carries, markedly Zhao Danny and Sushi, and they can be big players, as we've always expected.
And even Adder is starting to get a decent item spike. This Yone really hasn't had that shiny of a game so far, but being able to find that pick onto Sushi, being able to find the damage on that last fight, now having the double buffs and all the tools available for an outplay, it really feels like Adder has been unleashed from this late game carry that is the Yone. But can they repeat that success is the big question. Everyone posturing around this mid lane. Baz is going to take down, or hang on, Frost is in there.
He doesn't take the Glacial Prison, and 2 ejected by Decoy in the Keeper's Verdict. They're going to try and burn through the boar, and they will. Dark Calculus, Zhao Danny, they show back up. They drop the Equalizer. The Lullaby is just too late. The dominance, the power of Sushi is too much to bear, and now he's completely unleashed onto Pocus. The Unbreakable Shield has been broken. 4 strong for the Straw Hat Crew, and they only have 2 turrets and a Nexus to claim the game.
And what a beautiful re-engage coming out there from Straw Hat. They lose Frost Forest, but Kim down and Dr. Calculus immediately recognize that Basby is split from the rest of the team. They take down the Varus. They group up the entire rest of Mirage Alliance Baguette, and they pick them off one by one. And Adder is the next to fall. 4 members down, 20-second death timers. Decoy, the only member alive. I think Straw Hat Crew have found their first win.
They found it. They were in control the entire game, and they proved that they are one of the big teams so far in the Noxus group. 1-0 to the Straw Hat Crew, and boy, did it look convincing.
Yeah, what a scrappy game, but really through and through, I gotta give credit to that game 1 to the facilitators on the side of Straw Hat Crew. I can't say this enough. Frost Forest was in there every single fight. He was managing to find a flank angle. Kim down, getting all of the hooks that you could possibly want. Sushi, he may be away from mixture, but man, Kim down is a damn good support to play with if I'm an AD carry.
Certainly is. And look who's at the top of the damage charts as well. It's Dr. Calculus. That Rumble, not to be trifled with. Really one of those champions where it feels like it's all about the ultimate. And boy, he did not disappoint, especially that last turn. The power of a fully stacked up Dominus Renekton with that Call of the Meek on top of an Equalizer, all those slows, all that damage. Yes, Sushi was certainly, putting in the work with the Rockets, but these solo lanes were so powerful at different points in the game. Big win for the Straw Hat Crew. And also, big win because none of the champions you see on your screen, folks, are available for game number 2. We are in full Fearless here at the ACL.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes the series that much more exciting, especially, Slayer, you and I have predicted that this is going to be a series that goes to game 3. So it just gets better and better as the games go on. So game number 1 was already spicy. It was already heat, and it was super, super fun to cast. Game 2, probably going to be better. And I personally cannot wait to get there.
Well, we'll be there in just a bit of a break here. We're going to go to intermission, see what the side selection looks like for Mirage Lions at Baguette. Do they want to stay on the blue side, swap to the red side? All that and more coming for game number 2 draft. You won't want to miss it, and we'll be back after a short one.
Every child in Valorant has heard the tale before about the cursed mummy boy who felt his heart no more. So sad and lorn, the helpless lad, Amumu was his name. He ventured out to find a friend and learn about his bane. For many years, young Amumu traveled through the lands, determined to make friends if only they would understand. But even when Amumu stood upon the ledge of home, his hope would disappoint him and he would remain alone. But then the curse began to whisper in his ear. It would confirm what was Amumu's biggest fear. It pledged that never shall someone become his friend. It pledged that he shall be alone until his end. Sorrow and despair became too much to bear. The moment when Amumu realized what he had done, too late it was for him, for them, the evil curse had won. The anger and the anguish overwhelmed his fragile soul and caused a wicked tantrum that he never could control.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Salt Mine special Saturday edition of the Aegis Champions League and its big and bad fall 2024 split, where we just got to watch two heavyweight titans of the Noxus division duke it out for game number 1, with Straw Hat Crew coming out on top with that simplistic but scary composition power of a bunch of frontline damage and some key extra damage, I guess you want to say, from the Jinx behind it, Quacks.
Yeah, I mean, Sushi really was the champion that was, Sushi was the man himself that was able to really put forward that team, especially when they were at a little bit of a stalemate toward that late game. But a lot of the credit I gave over to Frost Forest and Kim Down. They really made everything happen. They were always in flank positions, always in positions to get picks. And that really was what I think was able to feed Sushi and Dr. Calculus, the carries of that game, all of that gold. So this time around, you know, you're off of those champions. The Jinx is no longer available for Sushi. The Rumble is no longer available for Dr. Calculus. These are kind of two staple picks that we've seen these players on. What exactly are they going to pick in order to replicate that same success?
That becomes the question. What we won't see switch up, Quacks, is the side selection. So we do have Mirage, Alliance, Baguette wanting to stick on that blue side, despite suffering a defeat there. What are you feeling like you look for here on the B1 pick? Because I've said it many times, Quacks, it's very hard for you to predict currently, but, you know, what are some strong picks if you are Mirage, Alliance, Baguette that you want to go to here? Is it simplicity like we've seen a lot of these successful teams do?
I mean, I really want to see them play toward Eider. This has been kind of a player that we've had a big question mark over, right? He's the kind of the odd man out when we look at the rest of this team. Hasn't played with any of the members on this squad, and he has been known as a carry player. We saw him on the Yone in game number 1, but they didn't really pay too much attention to the mid lane. So I want to see them maybe go for something like a LeBlanc, like a Syndra, these powerful mid lane picks that are able to abuse that Storm Surge item and really snowball forward under the right circumstances. I think that would be a really interesting thing for Mirage, Alliance, Baguette to do. But then again, you know, blind picking mid lane does have its drawbacks. And Straw Hat Crew, you know, they've got a former coach and they've got an NACL player. They know how to draft, so they would know how to punish it, I imagine.
Well, so far in the draft, not much different from game number 1. Band's looking pretty similar. Mirage, Alliance, Baguette still don't want to deal with, you know, an Aurora or an Ari. And the Skarner Ziggs Udyr combo, if I'm not mistaken, Coax, was the same 3 from the Straw Hat Crew.
Yes.
But with it being fearless, you don't have to yawn and be like, all right, so it's just going to be another Yone B1, right? It's not going to be the same. Nope. You're going to have to see something different. I am, though, a very big fan of the Ziggs ban. I think Ziggs is just in such a great spot with how wacky the bottom lane is right now.
For sure, and he's also able to, you know, go into that flex pick if we want to see a mid laner picked first, which is exactly what we're seeing here in game number 1. MAB not going to go the route of a Storm Surge abuser. Rather, they're going to go for the Mage Man himself in the Hui. So that is going to be locked in here first in game number 2. Now, Straw Hat Crew, I imagine, want to get a counter pick here in mid lane. There are a few options they have. I've been seeing a lot of people say Zoe is an incredibly strong mid laner right now, able to get some of those items and really pairs well with the Luden's Companion along with the Storm Surge. But instead, going to go down to toward that bot lane, going to lock into that Jhin. So Sushi gonna have a little bit more of a tame game, I would imagine. Maybe this signals more towards Straw Hat Crew wanting to play toward that top side and get more aggressive jungle picks potentially.
There's always a fun extra, you know, added layer to the ACL for a lot of these players, is that they can start to show how they are adaptive to meta and, you know, they're not known for certain champions. I talked about it with guys like Xiao Danny, but Sushi spent a lot of his really great qualifiers run playing Ezreal, playing Ashe. Those were his 2 most banned champions. It became a moniker that if you banned one, he was going to pick the other between Ezreal and Ashe. So now we get to see him on this Jhin that wasn't a champion. If I didn't watch every single Sushi game, I watched a lot of them. Don't believe he ever pulled out the Jhin until now. So it's just Sushi saying, hey, I could adapt to the meta, you know, tier 2 teams looking for another ADC prospect.
For sure. And on the other side, I imagine they want to try and respond to that AD carry pick. They lock in the Wukong to react to the Jarvan, but now you maybe want to be something that's a little bit able, you want to pick something that's able to abuse the Jin's immobility, right? I'm thinking maybe something like a Kai'Sa could be good, something very up in your face that the Jhin has to deal with and can't really create the space to deal with. So I think Kai'Sa is good here if they want to lock that one in, or they could go for the support instead. We've been talking about how, you know, Rel is kind of the flavor of the month, and really the best engaged support, but Leona never too far behind. This really feels like an omnipresent support whenever you need some reliable engage.
Leona certainly was the queen of the last 3 or 4 patches when it came to support, so
Yes.
certainly still going to like that. I'm curious to see if we might. Well, there's the Rel. Quacks, give you some credit. Oh, this is why we don't talk before the picks are locked in. I'm curious. We'll see. I wouldn't be the most surprised if we get this Hui in the bottom lane with the Leona. Just the fact that you can follow up the damage from distance with Hui. You are opting to play a bit more passively, but Hui certainly scales to infinity, and if you want to protect this Hui pick from Bazby, good way to do it. Kim Down, another staple Kim Down pick, by the way. He goes for the Alistar. So I would argue these are the 2 most played champions I've seen Kim Down play in his time in the NACL, with the Alistar after the Nautilus.
Yeah, a lot of disengage comes with bringing that Alistar to the table. A lot of it basically means that you also can't get tower dove. It's very difficult to tower dive any bot lane where Alistar is involved. So I like this pick coming up from Kim Down, not just because it's a staple of his, but also because it works really well into this mostly engage heavy Mirage Alliance Baguette squad. And we're starting to see the second phase of bans, a mix between top laners and AD carries, the Ezreal being hovered along with the Kai'Sa. And I actually am kind of in support of this way potentially going in toward that bottom lane. This is not an Eider pick. He likes to go for those aggressive champions. So this could be kind of a fake out coming out here from MAB. And if it is, I would imagine you have room to go things like the Yasuo, right? You've got the knockups with the Wukong. You've got the Cyclone that would spell to a really big wombo combo that MAB could try to pull out through. But for the meantime, Straw Hat Crew looking like they're going to pick up some more of the flavorful mid laners. The LeBlanc, like we mentioned earlier in the draft. Storm Surge, Abuser, Backline, Destroyer. Good matchup into Hui as well if that is the pickup for mid in game number 2. And it's not going to the AD carry role. And that's just going to be locked in. So I really like to see this. Again, I think a Yasuo would really go hard here if you're trying to unlock Eider and put that Hui in the bot lane, but potentially going to see a top laner picked up here first to try and hide that a little bit longer.
Debonair was the big hero for Chaotic Solar's game 1 win with that LeBlanc, was absolutely deleting people with chain combos in that very close match. So yeah, I think LeBlanc, it's LeBlanc and Syndra, the 2 queens of the Storm Surge meta. So we do see the Yasuo locked in here. So Quacks, you're expecting this for Eider, right? Or
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Eider,
yep.
Absolutely. I mean, this is a staple of his, right? We talked about it. He's got a bunch of knockup access with the Cyclone and now with the Explosive Cask. I really like to see them play around this young gun 18-year-old that's new to the team and relatively new to the scene as well. We've seen him have the hands. We've seen him with the mechanics before. And I think MAB playing around this really speaks to the trust they have in him. It's really exciting to see. And on the other side, Straw Hat Crew just picking up the Shen. I like this. It's a good reaction into the Gragas, who mostly just wants to stalemate the lane. Shen has no problem stalemating the lane so long as he can get those stand uniteds across the board and protect that Jarvan, protect that Jhin. Whoever's really engaging or getting engaged on, he'll be a happy camper.
He will be a happy camper indeed. Also a good counter to the all-in burst ability that Mirage Alliance Baguette are playing for here. There's not a lot of sustained damage. Like, yes, there is, maybe when Eider does land, after that last breath, you get a lot of damage on the Yasuo. But in reality, it's burst. It's Hui burst, it's Yasuo burst, Cyclone burst. I've said burst many times in the last 10 seconds. So the Shen, giant shield with Stand United, and I will be very upset, Quacks, if nobody on Straw Hat Crew. There needs to be somebody running exhaust. That's the Yasuo attacks. I expect it to be Kim Down, but we better see an exhaust, in my opinion.
For sure. My biggest concern with the Straw Hat Crew comp, though, is if you realistically shut down this Jhin or LeBlanc, if even one of those 2 pieces end up falling behind in the early game, the damage from Straw Hat Crew is not going to be there later down the line. They are basically opting into full protect the puppy with the Jarvan and the Shen. These are lane bullies who are able to get stuff done in the early game, but they significantly fall off after 2 items, right? So once that 2-item mark comes off, you're really looking at this LeBlanc and the Jhin to be the ones carrying the weight in a lot of these fights, to be the ones that the rest of the squad thing. And if they can't deal the damage, if they can't make the plays, then you're really going to be kind of left out to dry, I would imagine, post 20 minutes.
Certainly feels like that is something scary to think about, especially because, yeah, I mean, Jhin isn't as snowbally as he has been in some iterations. like the Dark Harvest, like Collector Rush Jin, which you still can play, by the way, but that one is a lot
I
more.
wouldn't advise it.
I was not in this game for sure. This is, you got to go the crit route, try and build up to somewhat scale on this Jin. LeBlanc is so very much snowball based. We'll see Zhao Danning back on maybe not a full blown mage, but it's just another flavor of the Zhao Danning champion pool. Very fun to see him play on top of this LeBlanc. And like you mentioned, while there isn't a ton of sustained damage, it does kind of feel like the catch-22 here, Quacks, could be, if LeBlanc and Jin are still alive and you're able to survive whatever gotcha engage comes across from this Yasuo combo, you've got enough disengage tools. These fights just might get all out messy once a lot of these ultimates have been expended.
I think that the caveat to that is that MAB have other, avenues of carry, not just the Yasuo. I mean, the Hui is still able to pump out insane numbers. This is a champion that is really kind of that artillery mage that's got that long distance. So if somehow, the Yasuo doesn't get ideal conditions in the early game, if somehow it kind of falls behind, then there is certainly a world where Hui can be kind of the one being protected in a lot of these fights. They can switch it up a little bit, have Gragas and Leona play Peel, and just have Hui fire abilities from a screen away.
Yeah, certainly feels like the X Factor. Will be a very interesting lane to watch, as Alistar is a very good counter for Leona, we've seen in so many instances, but at the same time, Jin and Hui don't have a ton of interaction unless there's some serious lockdown set up for this Jin to punish the Hui. Not what you expect from the Alistar. Potentially what you could expect, though, from Frost Forest, as he did pay a decent amount of attention towards that bot side to get Sushi going in game number 1.
I mean, yeah, Frost Forest really has been the one that set them up in game number 1. Kim Down was also that person. So I certainly think that there are avenues for Straw Hat Crew to play around this bot side. I don't doubt their ability to really get this Jin ahead, but it really is on a timer, right? If you're not able to get this Jin ahead by a certain amount of time, when this Yasuo hits an item spike, when this Hui hits an item spike, then you're looking at a potentially much more difficult game. So I think, first 15 minutes, Straw Hat Crew, and in particular Frost Force, need to be really proactive. They need to be looking down in that bot lane. They need to be looking for those dragons. They need to be looking for some way to get them a win con in that late game, because once late game comes around, if they're hung out to dry, I certainly think MAB just have the chance to straight up outscale them.
It is also, we are looking for MAB to... I don't want to say they didn't execute their team comp in that last game, but certainly, fell behind for most of that game, and it felt difficult, Quacks, for them to get the team fights they wanted. The only time we really ended up seeing it was when they were able to get a pick on to Zhao Danny's Renekton, and they set up Ader for that giant flank on the Yone with the Fate Sealed. Similar sort of scenario, right? You don't want to fall too far behind, because you do need to be somewhat gold efficient, or maybe at least in the new game, of League of Legends, experience efficient, to make that initial gotcha Yasuo combo comes across. Because even if the Hui is that consistent damage, you're still banking this comp on getting a big last breath from Ader to at least start things off.
And it's such a big leap forward, I would say, for this squad, right? Again, we've talked about it a couple of times, but this is a squad of 4 players that had not really had the results they wanted in the Summer Open qualifiers, right? They had been knocked out twice in a row in, I believe it was the quarters. They had managed to make it through the GSL stage, but they certainly had a ceiling. This was a team that once they got into the top 8, simply were halted with any progress. And to see the one player that wasn't a part of that being played for, I think really speaks to how capable Ader is as a player, and how exciting this game number 2 is, because if they can get Ader to a point where he is that carry, to the point where he is that 1v9 Yasuo that goes in all the montages, that goes on the Synapse clips, then you have a player that you're going to be keeping your eyes out for, right? This is going to be the X factor of MAB, and he'll be a contributing factor to a lot of their wins going forward if they can really show his stars, I would say, in this game.
The young prodigy Eider on this mostly AMI stacked up team. Mirage Alliance Baguette, the new name. They need to come up with a big performance. The squad does. Eider does as well, if they want to keep this series alive and look to start their season off in the ACL Fall 2024 split on the right foot forward. We'll find that out and more after a short break, where we go live for Summoner's Rift for game number 2 between MAB and SHC. Back in a flash. Game number 2 here for the first week of the Noxus group in the Aegis Champions League. And boy, do we have a fun game ahead. Everyone likes to say the word wombo combo for a ton of compositions, but few are synonymous with that moniker than a Yasuo knockup combination, and that's what Mirage Alliance Baguette has to get across the line to find themselves into Game 3.
And on that note, nobody likes a story like a rookie coming up to challenge well-established players, and that's exactly what Eider is looking to do here in this game on the Yasuo. And a lot of pings coming through. Wowee. My brain is made of mush.
Oh, Zhao Danny starts chaining at the root, and Kim down throws Eider into the turret. Back-to-back games with first blood before minions crash, but this time it's Straw Hat Crew, and boy, do they find a stylish way to do it.
Boy, that felt like the biggest caster curse of all time. I was hyping up Eider, and suddenly he gets headbutt into the turret. Also started E here in the lane phase, so not the most ideal start here for the Yasuo. Nonetheless, it is going to be a kill going over the way of Zhao Denny. Wasn't able to recall, though, to spend that gold that he earned by getting that first kill. So at the end of the day, it's just a kill. It's just a score line for the time being until that LeBlanc spends her gold.
What a funny matchup that is. It's a level 1 LeBlanc with chain start versus a level 1 Yasuo with dash start. Not what you expect, but neither of these games have been expected starts. So you can already see Eider trying to get something reclaimed back in that matchup. Certainly the bottom lane, though, an intriguing combination of champions that we're looking to see how exactly they work. It's always fun to see Alistar versus Leona because level 1, they're both considered not to be actual champions.
We can see Eider getting level 2 first, going crazy in the mid lane, managing to chunk out a little bit on Zhao Danny. Frost Force is on the top side of the map here, and I think that the Yasuo, anticipating that a gank might be near, is going to just try and get some early vision. Yeah, it will spot him out, or realize, rather, that the Raptors are taken, so they are able to track out where Frost Force is, which is the Wolves. And a lot of attention is likely going to be paid toward this mid lane. LeBlanc versus Yasuo, an incredibly volatile matchup that I have to imagine Frost Forest and Lojaz really want to be a part of as soon as possible.
Certainly would expect Frost Forest to be more active in this early phase. Wukong, a gank-based champion when it comes to his ultimate. Feel like you need that Cyclone to have a real effect unless you already have set up in the lane, which really only is present in the bot side, I feel like, for Mirage Alliance Baguette.
I would tend to agree. I feel like Gragas, certainly a champion that until level 6 doesn't actually have that reliable of setup. He does have the slow, he does have the belly bump, but these things are rather short until you get to, later levels, and that slow can really last. That belly bump has a really low cooldown. So I like what I'm seeing coming out here from the Wukong, going toward the bot side. Both junglers finishing up their full clear at around the same time, but Crab is being taken here by Frost Forest, which gives Lojaz maybe an opportunity to look for something bot side, but he is spotted out on a ward and just a little too late to the call.
Yeah, really good to spot and track Lojaz this time. They might even look for the collapse here as he looks for the recall. Has to flash away from the flag and drag. So Lojaz thought he had a gank opportunity. Turns out he's forced into a reset, flashless.
Bit of a greedy recalling area for Lojaz to take that reset, and he does get punished for it. No flash for the Wukong. Not the end of the world, though, as really when the flash having the flash up really matters when you hit that Cyclone, so you can get those big, long-ranged AoE knockups for Eider in particular. But until then, I would expect it to not be punished a ton by Straw Hat Crew. Maybe I'm wrong, as we do see Frost Force on the top side of the map, maybe just trying to get some information or potentially set up for a dive on Decoy, although this wave state, not the most ideal for that to happen.
Yep, does at least get the information that Lojaz is coming up to try and clear his Garomp on those timers, and Frost Force says, all right, that's fine, not much more here, but for me to start my second clear as well, as there is a small but clear advantage for the Straw Hat Crew in this opening frame, all thanks to one headbutt and one LeBlanc chain. Oh, and a turret. Don't forget the turret.
Yeah. And speaking of turret, that is exactly what Baz and Pocus are shoved under here, but they may be going in.
Yeah, low health bars from Kim down and Sushi. It is a Hui in the bottom lane, but there's more than enough damage to carry through a trade. Sushi makes sure that he picks up the kill, whereas Pocus was the one to grab Kim Down's moniker. So maybe a win again for the Straw Hat Crew just because of the kill designation.
I would certainly agree. I think, giving that kill over to Jin, definitely better than Pocus getting it on the other side, but Baz gonna try and also shove this wave in, meaning that Sushi gets a better recall timer and will be able to catch this wave that I would imagine is shoving in toward the turret. So Jin not missing out on too much, managing to get that kill, and all the while, the side of Straw Hat Crew really just looking to force on up toward this top side. You can see those grubs spawning in about 20 seconds. Both teams really want to try and get in on that action because game number 1, the 6 grubs really made the difference.
Here we go with the mid laners, though. Zhao Danny dashes to force Pocus under the turret, and Kim Down gets a double headbutt pulverized. It's the mid lane turret, the star of the show for the Straw Hat Crew, as it gets them their second kill of 3.
And they managed to get the kill, but the prio is still favoring MAB. You can see Lojez roaming on up, maybe trying to go for those grubs. Meanwhile, Frost Force is actually on the dragon, so an objective handshake here likely to follow, but I don't think Lojez wants to risk it. He definitely, sees Kim down, collapsing on with Dr. Calculus, who doesn't have priority, but is going down here anyway. He used the dash, so they may be looking for a kill onto him now.
Explosive cast, throws Dr. Calculus into his best friend, Lojaz. Flash out, clone used. Can they cut down the angle? The slows come across, but there's another belly bump. One more shot of the cask, and this should be a kill back for Lojaz. Great recognition there from Decoy to make the play happen.
Yeah, he saw the dash, he saw that the taunt was used, and immediately decides to go on into him. He throws him right in to the waiting arms of the Wukong. And they get themselves a kill. However, the grubs are the next target. And it seems like Straw Hat Crew have no interest in giving that away, as 3 members of that squad are up and ready to go.
Asby recognizes he has ult prio, goes for the full combo to Sushi, but Hui needs more time to start one-shotting people, so Sushi can just soak it up. Will be forced to give up the wave state, but like you talked about, that's because the rest of the Straw Hat Crew are more content playing for those grubs.
So it's going to be 2 grubs going over the way of Straw Hat Crew and only 1 going to Mirage Alliance Baguette. So a relatively even handshake across the board, but the Dragon, I would say, really making the difference in allowing Straw Hat Crew to come out on top in these early phases. It's not much in the wake of a gold lead, but a lot of where the gold allocation is going for the Straw Hat Crew is exactly where they want it. 1 kill, or 2 kills rather, onto the LeBlanc, 1 kill onto the Jhin. The carries, the champions we said that needed to be activated in this early game are sitting very nicely so far.
Sitting nicely indeed. Keeping up in that CS score as well. Most of the lanes, though, favoring Baguette's side. As the game starts to slow down a bit with none of those neutrals to really play for. But Ultimate's coming online for just about everybody. Give down and Pocus the last ones. We have an engage onto Eider. Has to flash the Cataclysm, greatly timed, but still key summers found for the Ultimate of Frost Forest.
Good escape, but at the end of the day, he doesn't have the teleport, he doesn't have the flash, so he is vulnerable again to a repeat gank. We've seen how much Kim Down likes to roam around the map, so who's to say this Alistar can't interrupt something, or hell, the Jarvan can't just come back again as Decoy's looking for a bomba play.
Well, here's the switch up from game 1 to game 2 for Mirage Alliance Baguette. It's punish Dr. Calculus as they pick up the second kill from Lojaz on to the Shen.
Absolutely immaculate play there from Decoy, perfectly angled, and gets another kill over to Lojaz. The Wukong, not the carry we were expecting.
Oh!
As Adder goes down, Zhao Danny! What on earth is happening?
Everybody's getting bursted down. Severing bolts, LeBlanc chains, you name it, kills are being found. But the prevailing story, this game is still dead even, besides 1 dragon and, 1 grub.
For sure. The objectives, though, like you said, making the difference. A lot of the gold for MAB, though, not going over to the Yasuo. Eider not having the best of early games. 0, 2, and 0. No flash, no teleport. Has that ultimate available and a lot of things to unlock that last breath. But again, it really falls on the ability of Eider to get into that get in to all 5 members of Straw Hat Crew without getting bursted down. And so far, with how behind he is, it feels just so difficult to commit to any of those ultimates, knowing that someone is always lurking around the corner in the case of SHG.
Now, this is a really good lesson in, well, hold on. No lessons being given here because we have more fighting amok. Frost Forest and company looking for an engage. Double dash from Zhao Danny. There's the first last breath of Eider, but good dodge on the solar flare. Zhao Danny recasts the distort and completely confuses Eider as he falls for a 3rd time. Curtain call out, trying to get the shots onto Lojaz, but Pocus will block it to make sure it's only 1 for the Straw Hat Crew.
Beautiful positioning coming out there from Zhao Danny. Baits out the last breath from Aidu. They pick him off. They get a kill. They re-engage. Frost Force hits that Cataclysm. And Dr. Calculus just there for moral support. The shield coming up big to make sure nobody dies in the process. And better yet, he doesn't really lose a lot for it. On the top side of the map, he's able to catch this wave. The one caveat, though, is he likely will not have this ultimate available for the next Dragon. So I'll be interested to see how Straw Hat Crew play around that objective without that cross map available to them.
Now that we have a slowed down game, though, Quacks, I think this game really illustrates how when certain champions are behind, how impactful it is, right? Because in a lot of ways, you could argue Dr. Calculus is further behind than Eider is on the side of Mirage Alliance Baguette, but the importance of their role is what really differentiates this. Hold on, Kim Down just found a free kill onto Low Jazz with the flash. That is not your Raptor camp, my friend.
Beautiful punish coming out there from Kim Down. Man, this guy has been everywhere. We said it in game number 1, but on this Alistar, he is just making waves, punishing all of these little mispositions from the MAB players. A bit of aggression, though, coming out there from Baz and Pocus. They were maybe trying to look for a kill onto Sushi. They're trying now.
Good cleanse. Sushi kites back safely. Just a bit of poke back down. Man, Baz B is certainly starting to hurt with that Luden's companion completed, but with that pick onto Low Jazz, that means a free grub take here for Frost Force, so in a couple of seconds, Might's once again secured for the Straw Hat Crew side.
And Straw Hat Crew are more than happy to go for an objective handshake this time around, as we got a pause.
Oh.
Immediate unpauses. Kim Down.
Oh.
Oh,
this...
wait, that's illegal. That's not allowed.
What?
You can't do that.
I surely hope that Kim Down's going to give over this. I don't know exactly what the pause is coming through for, so we'll have to find out and see exactly what's going on. Doesn't mean they'll have to return to the caster desk for the time being. But,
Yep.
You know, the thing I did want to talk about, I kind of got interrupted, Quacks. Classic play-by-play trying to play the analyst role. Has to try and make points while fights are happening. Dr. Calculus being behind, it just doesn't matter as much as Eider because of the comp designed around Eider and the fact that Shen doesn't need economy to be a valuable champion in really any game, right?
Really, he doesn't. If he clicks, this is kind of what a lot of people talk about when you mention tanks in the top lane. As long as they're able to click their R key, their job is done, right? In this game, we talked about the importance of Shen relative to the carries on the side of Straw Hat Crew, those carries being Zhao Danny and being Sushi, and they're both completely unlocked. So even if Dr. Calculus, is 20 CS down, is 0-2 at the start of the game, as long as he's able to be there to protect his carries who are in a good spot themselves, he really has nothing to worry about. Meanwhile, on the other side, Eider has to be the carry, right? This entire comp was built around him, and it really feels like this picture won't be complete until that Yasuo has some items under its belt, until it's able to get a big last breath wombo combo. And we're right back to the game, actually, as it has started.
Oh, I wasn't necessarily prepared. That's what we get for double dutying production caster.
There goes Kim Down.
Yeah, I mean, were we surprised Kim Down falls? Once again, though, it's another pick, this time from Mirage Alliance Baguette on the side of it, where they find it right in front of a neutral objective spawning. Oh, we didn't get through the right. I think this is just the right freeze thing we were talking about.
Yep, we thought it was fixed in game number 1, but no, it wasn't.
Man,
unfortunate.
Right. Well, let's hope. There we go. Okay, so we're back.
There we go.
Should be a pretty free Drake take here for Mirage Alliance, if I do say so myself. But Frost Force is nearby.
Yep. Dr. Calculus does not have that stand united, though, so it's really hard, I think, for Straw Hat Crew, man down, as Kim Down was taken down, for them to go in here. So it's just going to be the first Drake taken and given over to Mirage Alliance Baguette. The stacking, not quite there for them, as it's one apiece, but still a win con activated for them in what feels like a pretty difficult game for a lot of their carries.
Maybe wishing for a different combo on the Dragon as they get the Cloud Soul. The always memed on Soul. Still pretty powerful for a comp that's looking to create in Mirage Alliance. Flash for flash. Sushi having to expend that key summoner, but he's looking for the turn with the numbers here. Headbutt into the curtain call, but they can't get to Bazby. The crit shot is going to whiff. Bazby kiting back, but towards the wrong side, and they've got a fourth coming in for the Straw Hat Crew. It's Dr. Calculus with the stand united, just to make sure Sushi secures his kill.
They managed to get the kill. I liked the play or the attempt from the rest of the members of MAB to try and save Baz, but unfortunately was on the wrong side, really, of the map. And that Stand United kind of just sealing the deal now. Sushi going to get some much needed gold here into the bot lane. Despite all of the kills going his way, despite him CSing relatively well, he has only gotten one plate in this game, Slayer, whereas you look at the other side of the turret, you look at the other side of the bot lane, Baz has gotten a lot of those plates. So this Hui and this Jhin are still relatively even in terms of gold, which is not something either team wants to happen.
It's honestly, those plates is what's keeping the game close in gold overall, because with all those Stand Uniteds from Dr. Calculus, Decoy took 4 of those top lane plates.
Oh, no.
Back to Kim Down show, looking for pick after pick, and he forces Eider to flash his way back to safety. It has been a rough one for this Yasuo pick.
Manages to get out, but again, Flash really just being used off of cooldown. It means that they can't go for any of these aggressive plays around the mid lane. You can see all of the members of MAB trying to focus up around this side of the map. They're going to look onto Kim Down, but they are outnumbered, it feels. They're outgunned.
Oh, that's a big explosive cast, though, from Decoy. Forces Frost Force away from the rest of his team, and Lojaz is going to burn him down. The last breath cancels out the distort from Xiao Danny, and now he has to completely bail out of the pit. Frost Force down, Dr. Calculus next. Here comes Mirage Alliance Baguette.
And they managed to find their first win of the game in terms of team fighting. They steal away the Rift Herald as well. So now the gold lead for the first time is in their pockets. And Eider finally getting his first kill of the game. Beautiful setup there by the rest of MAB. And we're just going to have to wait and see where exactly they are going to use it. Because now that top lane turret has been killed, the bot lane one is low. To imagine they're going to try and knock down this mid lane turret.
We talked about it from draft. If there's ever been a team comp that's very ult dependent on success, it is Mirage Alliance Baguette. And you saw it there. The beautiful explosive cask and the interrupt on the dash. It is rare that you catch a LeBlanc out of her wits, but we saw it in that last fight. We might see it again here as Xiao Danny is going to get rooted up, forces to get the clone out, is able to get a distort back towards Kim Down, so should be safe for the time being. But Eider maybe pushing his luck, not expecting 2 more members of the Straw Hat crew to pop out of the fog, and that sends Xiao Danny on a rampage.
I mean, greed is one of the 7 deadly sins, and that deadly sin gets Eider killed. Just going too far forward, not respecting the fog of war. It's another kill over to Straw Hat Crew right as the Yasuo was, having a little bit of a redemption arc here, as is his lore. He gets knocked back down by all of the members of SHG. And with that, it looks like they're just looking to try and get this bot lane tower. They've got 5 grubs. It's very easy to knock down these structures, and Pocus alone cannot defend it.
Yep, Demolish helps too, but there's a Solar Flare. They have a teleport coming behind. Lojaz close by makes this a 3 versus 3. It's Eider returning the fight with Last Breath available, but they have to stay united, and just in the nick of time, SHC are looking for the turn. It's teleports galore, curtain call, raking across the entire fight. All these ultimates being dropped. There's the Last Breath, but it's on to Dr. Calculus, and he stays alive this entire time. Eider is far too low. The ultimate didn't find its marked target for Mirage Alliance Baguette, but Eider is somehow still alive, turns the fight on its head. Kim Down falls. The rest of the Salt Straw Hats have to bail out.
The 18-ration kid from Canada comes up big, survives by the skin of his teeth that entire fight, and buys space for his team to engage. What a play from the Yasuo. What a fight from MAB. They are unlocked here in game number 2. They want to take us the distance, and now with the Herald and the Dragon spawning soon, they're looking to do it again, Slayer.
And they're looking to do it maybe through their jungler. Lojaz, he's up to the Sundered Sky with the Black Cleaver. This Wukong, sneaky amount of damage on a composition where he's in reality designed to be a setup piece.
Absolutely. Now, Herald being popped here by Lojaz. Really, you got to keep your eyes on this Wukong, because although the Yasuo, not the strongest of positions, I changed my mind on that. Wow! Goodbye, Sushi!
Exactly what Mirage Alliance drew up with their comp, setting up Eider in those last breaths, but Xiao Danny's looking for a kill of his own. Forces Baz B to flash. That's the might of the LeBlanc. 5-0 in his own right is Xiao Danny with 10 stacks on that Dark Seal.
Unfortunate there by Sushi. Wasn't able to flash, wasn't able to cleanse, was stuck between a rock and a hard place. And the second kill for Eider coming up here. The second dragon for MAB soon to follow. And I like this rotation coming out there from Pocus and Eider. They recognize that this dragon is theirs. They're kind of dispersing the rest of their members around the map to defend these turrets, to defend these points around the game. And just make sure they can deny any kind of resources that SHG are looking to get for themselves.
They will be able to pick up a turret on the backside to knock down all of those outer turrets. 3 apiece between the two teams in that regard. But like you mentioned, Quacks, first time all series long, Mirage Alliance Baguette have control of a game with that gold lead. They're able to play for whatever they want with how much setup they have around this Yasuo.
Yasuo, kind of the bridge, I would say, for a lot of these fights. We expected him to kind of be the final sort of executioner. He would get the ult in, and the fight would just descend into utter chaos with the damage that would be provided in the aftermath. But so far, it feels like Eider, off of all of the knockups being propelled by the squad of MAB, is almost just the straight-up engage, right? He goes in, the team is there to follow, they lock up one member, and they immediately burst him down as Decoy, the next to potentially get bursted down.
Ragas certainly likes when he gets ganked so he can buy time. Decoy knowing that. Buying time for his squad as he surely will fall. Zhao Danny goes dominating, but a ton of pings towards the mid lane as the turn will come out for MAB.
I mean, Eider's in the top lane, doesn't have the teleport, so is going to probably have to rotate down toward the bot lane. Dr. Calculus has that Stand United available. A flank is being activated here by the facilitators on SHC. They're looking for a pick, but I don't think they're going to be able to find it. I think Mirage are out.
Yeah, those slows for the curtain call, not enough. Low Jazz bails out. The man advantage still there for the Straw Hat crew, but no way to cut down the angle unless Frost Force has something to say about it. But you got to be wary jumping into all 4 of them. All the ultimates available from Mirage Alliance. There's the Stand United. Zhao Danny's trying to hold them, trap them in this lane. But there's still just not enough damage, not enough true engage, respect being played towards Mirage Alliance. And now Decoy has respawn, has the teleport up in a couple of seconds, and Low Jazz wants to go for the Cyclone. Big Blast Cone. They do get the Last Breath combo, but it's on to Kim down with his Unbreakable Will. Look how long it takes to even burn through this cow's health bar. Flashes to safety, and Pocus on the other side is being heralded by Sushi. Tons of ultimates, tons of chase, but no get just yet. Maybe it's on a Dr. Calculus. Good flash to make sure the explosive cast sends him the right way, not the wrong way. And now it's Eider's turn to step up. Dashes through the minion waves, and he's found Sushi in a 1v1 that Sushi absolutely does not want. Eider's going to get a big gold injection as the Straw Hat crew have to kite back. Zhao Danny picks a tank, does not have enough damage to finish off Low Jazz, and it's the kill from the Severing Bolt. Sniped down for Baz B. Somehow that play turns into 2 kills for the Baguettes.
Baz is so good. I would hate to see this man in Valorant with the op. He has been sniping kids left, right, and center this game. I believe that's the second kill from long range here. The first one being in that tri-bush earlier in the game. But a huge extended fight from both squads, just trying to get little picks in toward each other. But ultimately, it's only 2 kills over to MAB. Zhao Danny getting his recall canceled, but an extended trade favoring the side of Mirage. They managed to get yet another kill into Eider. So this Yasuo, what started out as a very rough early game, has now turned into a gold lead for him. Or not a gold lead, but rather a bounty, for this Yasuo. 2 items strong and very, very ready to fight, as we've seen.
And markedly, a bit of a bruiser with that stride breaker. And that's the point I really want to hammer down is usually in a game, especially on this patch where you have a LeBlanc that's so accelerated, can really wreck a lot of the setups. But you're seeing Zhao Danny, there's not enough burst ability because there's enough health and sustain on these members that he's forced to go for. He can't get to Baz B, the only person he can really one-shot currently with that Storm Surge. And until there's maybe some Magic Pen done or a couple more items coming through, I feel that Zhao Danny's not enough of a threat onto Decoy, onto Low Jazz, or at Eider at this current point.
He's not enough of a threat, and really, he's the only threat on this squad. We talked about how important it was that both Sushi and Zhao Danny were in a carry position in this game. Well, it feels like Sushi has kind of fallen from grace in these past couple of minutes. It really feels like this Jhin is not super activated in a lot of these fights. Eider is just able to pick him off with little to no difficulty. So all of that, carry burden in these fights really lies on this LeBlanc. And yeah, like you said, it's not activated enough. It's just not enough to really win them a team fight at this point, which is why MAB in these last 5 to 7 minutes have really been propelling ahead.
And they might be able to propel further ahead playing for this third dragon. But there is
Oh,
Cataclysm
wow.
committed on to Pocus. Trapped for a couple more seconds, drops the Solar Flare, trying to set Zhao Danny up to try and burst through this Leona. Health bar very low, but no killer blow just yet. Dr. Catalyst takes the standing guide in. In goes Low Jazz. He gets interrupted, puts the Cyclone
big
down, and
Eider.
there is the last breath combo. But the burst for Zhao Danny sings through better. Low Jazz cannot find the trade. The clone comes out. Sushi trapped on the backside. He's getting heralded by a man with far too much brew.
Decoy?
Was that a flash in place? I don't think it matters because Sushi will still fall. Low Jazz goes unstoppable. Dirty, dirty fight around this top side between our two squads.
It's a scrappy fight, but the biggest casualty of that exchange definitely has to be Frost Forest, because you can see now MAB moving on toward that Dragon. Dr. Calculus maybe going to look to try and get an advantage on that top lane. But a solo point is imminent here for Mirage Alliance Baguette. They find the jungler of Straw Hat Crew, and they punish it extensively.
Even in kills, not even an impact on the map. Cloud Soul point for Mirage Alliance Baguette. Those speed ups could be so important in the hands of not only just Eider as a dash-based champion, but more those setup champions. The Wukong being able to get close enough for the Cyclones. Leona, Gragas able to line up better explosive cast combinations. Could be what pushes Mirage Alliance over the line.
And honestly, if Eider is able to just kind of, go one-for-one kamikaze into the entirety of Straw Hat Crew and take one or more with him and, dying himself in the process, then I still think it's definitely worth it for Mirage Alliance Baguette at the end of the day because of just how strong Low Jazz and Basby are, right? They get a numbers advantage. A lot of the fights have been taking place in enclosed spaces, which really favor MAB's comp, by the way, just with Hui as champion. And now Sushi may be in trouble. Good movement.
Wow, dodges every stun that Pocus has. Can the same be said for Frost Forest? With a flash, should be, but the Cyclone and the last breath go through the Blast Cone. Frost Forest down, and guess what's sitting in that topside river?
Yeah, another casualty. Frost Forest goes down again with a neutral on the board. They're going to immediately turn on toward that Baron Nashor, but it is important to note, Zhao Danny is in the back. He has the ability to maybe go for a flank. I think Decoy moving up toward the top is a really smart move here, but they lose a big part of their engage by committing this Gragas away.
Oh, wow. They might turn it with Dr. Calculus. Sand United, hello, my friend Decoy. Seraph's Shield should keep Decoy safe. Remember, he's tankier than expected. Curtain Call falls flat. This should be an easy secure on the Baron unless they let Sushi walk in and crit shot it. Nope. Secured by Low Jazz, and now the numbers advantage is here, but it seems like Straw Hat Crew want this fight still. Basby able to kite back, and look at the damage this Hui just gets, dropping the Spiral and Despair, severing bolt. The entire kit sinks through, and what about a bow on top? Last breath, Eider finds a third.
Eider finds his fourth kill of the game. What an amazing team fight again coming out from MAB, and Straw Hat Crew crumbling here in game number 2. They didn't have the numbers advantage. They didn't have the jungler. They didn't have the resources to take that fight. It was a last hurrah, and it ends in defeat as Baron is up for all 5 members of Mirage. They've got the Dragon Soul. They've got the Wind Con. They've got the 8, 1, and 6 Wukong Low Jazz popping off in this game. They're looking to take us all the way, Slayer, and they're taking names in the process.
Such a feast or famine comp. And boy, are they feasting on all the bread in the world. And you can guess what type of bread. Mirage Alliance, very much so, going to be able to just spread this map up and play for their strength, which is finding a pick and capitalizing on it.
seems to kind of be the forte, even on that most recent pick on the Frost Force. By the hair of that Cyclone, they managed to find the knock up, which got the last breath activated for Eider. And that's the kind of millisecond decisions that net things like this.
Finally, they're going for Baz B, but there wasn't enough damage. He stands up tall to at least make it a 1-for-1. It's everybody on top of each other, but that's just how Eider and co like it. Down Danny falls, the explosive cast for the Wombo sinks through. You snap your fingers and it's an ace that's going to send Mirage Alliance Baguette to a do-or-die game 3.
They've got the Baron empowerment. They've got 4 members. Nothing is standing between them and game 3. They're knocking down the base. They've taken the turret. The inhibitor soon to follow. We're going all the way, Slayer. A much-anticipated series from 2 much-anticipated teams is delivering here on a Saturday evening.
The match has delivered towards expectations. All that's left is the fall of the Nexus. And we have ourselves a 1-1 series to start off both these teams' Noxus campaigns.
What a game, honestly. That was back and forth, up and down, left and right in all directions. Eider, though, I gotta sing praises to this guy, right? He had an absolutely abysmal early game. I'm sure he would agree. Got put down constantly. Kim Down's roams and Frost Forest ganks were really, really messing with him. This Yasuo, we said, had to be a vital piece of the puzzle, and it was looking like he wasn't going to be that, but slowly but surely finds his way back into the game, finds his footing, goes into a lot of the plays, goes 1-for-1, gets item advantages, and out of all of the players, really was, I would say, one of the biggest pieces to that last team fight, which really was a last hurrah from Straw Hat Crew. They tried to just, throw something into the air and hope it stuck. But really, you can't fight the wind now, can you? That wind blew that stickiness right away and took us to a game 3, Slayer.
Took us to a game 3. Got to shout out the X Factor pick as well that really went under the radar and everything except those damage charts. Baz B, that Hwei was untouched. And even in the last fight where you thought Frost Force found an angle, the Sarah, there's enough shields there and there just wasn't enough overall damage for the Straw Hat Crew to get it done. Luckily, like we've mentioned so many times, they'll have one more shot at it. 20 champions off the board. Side selection back in the hands of the Straw Hats. We'll see exactly what they want to do to try and reclaim a victory series that they had in the bag after one game. We'll find all that out and more after another short intermission.
You can't hang with that. 쏟아져 빛이 멀게 된 눈이 멈추지 않아. Once we go, 내게 더운 날로 모든 뼈 빨리 달려. 넌 못 따라와. True damage we do it. True damage 보여줄게. 뭐든 쉽게 이기든 지든. My crew make the beat fall. No one could stop us. They'll try, but they won't. Nada nos puede parar. Oh no. We're wide awake now. Our eyes are wide open. We're running this world. We're keeping it turning. We're living like giants. Yeah, giants. We're bigger than giants. We're giants. It's not the way we're weak. Oh, we coming right back. This time you're gonna see how we do it like that. We're living like giants. Yeah, giants. We're bigger than giants. We're giants. Oh, sleeping giants. Sleeping giants.
I keep on shattering time. I might just leave you behind. Homie, you stuck on rewind. You should quit sleeping on mine. You got your back on reclined. When I damage your delicate spine, please don't act out, shy and surprised. They be like, what you mean? What is your winning scheme? I got a giant team. Biggest my self-esteem. Run it back, running man. They think they go hard, I'm like, come again. You run at a time and I'm busting in. While you stumbling, I got this blade in my hand for your punishment.
We're wide awake now. Our eyes are wide open. We're running this world. We're keeping it turning. We're living like giants. Yeah, giants. We're bigger than giants. We're giants. It's not the way we're weak. Oh, we coming right back.
It all comes down to this, everybody. Game number 3 to decide who will be the 1-0 team next to the CCG Sport top-seeded squad in the Noxus division. Straw Hat Crew versus Mirage Alliance Baguette. The difference, Quacks, going into draft number 3. We're going to see the Straw Hat Crew on the blue side for the first time.
The difference also that instead of 10 champions completely out of the picture, there's 20 champions completely out of the picture. I held up a 2, but I should have held up a 0 along with it. 20 will not be available here, along with the bans that we are now just showing on the screen. Udyr likely going to be the first one taken away.
Similar ban. Udyr has been banned away this entire series. I am interested to see how this squad adapts their ban, Straw Hat Crew, now that they are on that blue side. Are there some champions you don't want to ban away because you would rather pick for yourself? We will have to see here. The same bans that they threw down, though, yeah, I mean, it was the Skarner, Udyr, and I believe the Ari? No, the Ari's banned on the other side. I'm forgetting one.
Yeah.
I guess I could go back and look at other drafts.
The Ashe.
The Ashe, there you go. Okay, yeah.
So a lot of focus being put toward the mid lane and the jungle respectively. And I mean, we've seen what happens when you give LoJess some of these facilitator junglers, right? We've seen both ends of the coin. Game number 1, he was popping off on the Sejuani. Every single play he made was basically in like every single advantage they got was in part large to him and Kim down. So they want to try and take away those remaining facilitators of Udyr and Skarner. We finished up the bans here. Ziggs has made its way through. We talked about this as a strong bot laner, a strong flex. It's still very good in the meta, despite AP champions taking a small little hit in 14-19, and it is going to be locked in here. So now Mirage Alliance, I imagine, probably want to try and potentially get a big mid laner here. It really feels like Eider has been the bridge between what a lot of these comps have been wanting to do over the course of this series. And yeah, we're seeing potentially an Orianna maybe followed up by a Nocturne. This is a tried and true combo. Nocturne has remained unbanned. Jarvan is another ball deliverer, but he's completely removed because of Fearless. It really feels like you want an engaged jungler. And I think the Fresh Prince of Demacia is likely going to be your best bet, but we could also see a world where they pick something in the bot lane to try and counteract the Ziggs.
All right, well, there's another ball delivery system for you, the Vi. Very fun to see the Vi Galio combo yesterday from Chaotic Solar. We'll get the Vi Orianna combo, which is a bit more traditional. Ziggs is still very, very flexible. Rel, in a certain time period, was flexible. Not anymore. It'll be Kim down.
Thank God.
Thank God. I'm sure you hated it, Quacks. It will be Kim down likely on his 3rd straight engaged champion. He has been very on point, especially in the early stages of these games with those style of champions.
Yeah, I like this coming out from Kim down, kind of sticking to his guns, sticking to what he knows best, which are those engaged supports. And I think one champion that could actually go really hard with the combo that we've seen so far is the Lulu, right? You get the Vi directly into the entire team on MAB. You pair it up with a ball, and then you pair it up with a knockup from Lulu. Not to mention, Polymorph could shut down this Rel instantly, along with the Camille that has now been locked in, which I think might force MAB to actually pick a top laner up here out of fear that some of the counters to this champion are going to get banned in the second phase. So I imagine a top lane champion will get taken away here. I think Poppy is not on the board, and that would be a champion I would think of. But actually, it's just going to be the Kai'Sa lock-in.
Kai'Sa locked in. Dive buddies. This is a lot of diving available for Mirage Alliance so far. I mean, everybody's maybe not the Orianna's diving, but the ball certainly going with it. You can Killer Instinct across. Look for pick potential onto a Ziggs. So Mirage Alliance marking the Ziggs, whether it goes into the hands of Zhao, Danny, or Sushi. Both have games on the Ziggs, and I'm sure both of them have practiced a lot of it on the current patch. But it seems like Mirage Alliance are convinced that it will be Sushi, or at least don't want to deal with the other Storm Surge queen, Syndra, as they'll take that one away in the second phase of bans.
I think MAB might actually benefit from getting a Sylas ban in here. I mean, I'm looking at the ultimates coming out from this red side squad, and I'm thinking, God, that would go hard on a Sylas. He would be able to be up in the face of Orianna. He could combo it potentially with the Magnet Storm from the Rel. I think Sylas would be a really good pickup here from Straw Hat Crew as we are finishing up the bans around this time. Rakan likely going to be the last one taken away as support has not been revealed yet by Mirage Alliance Baguette. But I want to see a little bit of aggression coming out here from the Straw Hat Crew. It seems like they have very aggressive comp, and that is a Galio
Wow, okay.
locked in here. So Is this a Galio support potentially?
I mean, that's the only place I really think you could stick it by this point. You definitely, it'd be really difficult to throw it towards the top side. And it looks like with the new buffs to Tristana, we might get that from Zhao Danny, or what I would consider his most staple champion with the Talia. So Zhao Danny going full comfort in this final game of the series. There is no champion better synonymous with this guy than Talia in my mind.
And not only do you, get that consistent damage, not only do you get that comfort, but you also get that Weaver's Wall, which has so many different uses if you're good at using it, right? You can roam on down toward the bot lane, you can reinforce your Ziggs, you can teleport immediately, essentially, to a, neutral objective fight, something that we've been seeing a lot of in this series. I think that Talia really is a champion that rewards skill and knowledge on how to use that ultimate, and Zhao Danny has shown that time and time again. Paired up now with the Xin Zhao, going to be the last lock in here for Straw Hat Crew. And Mirage Alliance Baguette probably going to pick up a top lane champion here, something to counteract this Camille. Cassante is open and available. You could maybe go for something like a Dr. Mundo, or you could go crazy and do a Mordekaiser. We have been underestimating this champion 2 days in a row now, Slayer, and it's made its presence known now 2 days in a row.
I really think the way you described it yesterday when we saw it for Chaotic Solar sings true here in the aspect this is, in reality, in my mind, to cancel out one of these, layering AoE ultimates. I would be surprised if we don't see Decoy just looking to target, either Frost Forest or this Camille jumping in towards priority targets, and Decoy's like, you know what? You're not fighting them. You're fighting me. And even if he loses, it's probably worth it at that point, because it's all about protecting this Orianna and allowing this Kai'Sa to live in an environment that's very harsh with how low range this champion is.
For sure. But I really like the Wombo combo coming out here from MAB as well. I mean, they themselves can layer their ultimates instead. Like, they remove a layer from the Straw Hat Crew, but they also have a very strong team fighting comp themselves. They've got the Orianna mixed in with the Hero's Entrance from the Galio, mixed in with the Cease and Desist. There's so many pick tools that they have in their champions kits to be able to just punish any kind of misposition, whether it be from the Ziggs or the Talia. And those are the champions that I'm expecting for them to look mostly onto. I think the Ziggs is going to be a very difficult thing for MAB to deal with if it goes unchecked in those first 15 minutes. Once it gets those Leandries, makes it really difficult for you to walk into a lot of those neutral objectives. I think they want to make sure that that is as put behind as possible. And then the Talia as well, right? Being able to roam over, lowering the roam power, lowering the threat that Talia could have if it chooses to join up in a fight is also going to be very important. But I think the biggest thing that holds them back is a lot of their go buttons rely on their ults. So they're going to have to wait until level 6. I think until then, they really just have to kind of settle down, give over objectives, give over those grubs or dragons or whatever, and group up. Because once they do, they can easily win this game.
Easily could win this game. It's fun to see, by the way, we're talking about comparing to the other series we did, Quacks. It's like, hey, the last time we saw Vi, we saw a Galio. I was like, we're not going to get that this time. Boy,
Yeah.
we
Well,
get
here
it
we
now.
are.
Yeah. It's just traditional Wombo is like a Yasuo knockup Wombo. We saw that from Mirage Alliance game 2. Now they're going a bit more fun, a little bit less traditional here with the fact that they are just going to Wombo and try and layer these ultimates like you talked about so well. But if you are on the Straw Hat Crew side, there is a lot of ways to disengage, disassociate, or maybe shield some of this damage. The Weaver's Wall can cut off some of these combinations. The Hextech Ultimatum can force the fight to redirect its attention. And then the Crescent Guard always sneakily can block a lot of that incoming damage when it gets layered in. If you have Frost Forest in the area of whoever's the target of that Cease and Desist Orianna Ball combo, you drop the Crescent Guard. It's not going to eliminate all the incoming damage, but it could block a lot of those key contributors.
It is also worth noting that Straw Hat Crew can be really selective for who they want to eject out of the fight and who they want to potentially keep in the fight. You've got the Hextech Ultimatum mixed up with things like the Crescent Guard, so you can essentially choose one target to keep in the fight while the rest of them get booted out for even just a second. And that means that they could easily get a numbers advantage for these fights. They could easily, propel that numbers advantage forward to get themselves more wins across the board. And I'm interested to see if that combo actually comes to fruition, because I think MAB are aware of that and are looking to just overload them with Engage.
Overload with Engage. Never a bad idea. But there is I think I said this last time, right? We talked about sometimes early weeks of ACL, teams that they know each other somewhat. We talked about, there's synergies, especially with Mirage Alliance, but you expect teams to like gravitate towards simple team fighting comps, just sort of get their bearings. If Straw Hat Crew can execute a comp where you're really about breaking up a wombo, and also you can really spread the map with these solo lanes in particular. Teams that can do that early on really showed me a high level of macro understanding. Those are the teams that I like to bet on when you talk about deep runs in tournaments, and especially a tournament of this high pedigree. If we could see the fact you could execute a comp where Camille's such a threat on the top side, Talia can wall into any sort of fights, Ziggs can blow up turrets much faster than anybody's usually ready for. If you can succeed in those areas, you don't even have to ever force a fight where you're terrified of this wombo the Mirage Alliance has put together.
Yeah, I think playing size is really going to be kind of an instrumental part to Straw Hat Crew taking the series home tonight, because of all of the reasons you mentioned. And the big facilitator of being able to play those side lanes is going to be those grubs. I'm looking at this comp to be very active around that 6 and potentially 10-minute mark, because I think once those timers hit, they are going to assemble the Avengers. They're going to get Kim down up toward those grubs. They're potentially going to get Sushi up toward those grubs as well. Ziggs, as we know, is a champion that loves to take teleport, which unlocks more roam potential from the AD carry. And I wouldn't be surprised if we see a full 5-man shift up toward that objective, with just how important it is to making sure those side lanes are always under threat.
Side lanes, team fights, wombos. A lot of words we've used already in this series, but none of the last 2 games matter except for studying and understanding what this matchup brings. We've seen a lot of big-time performances from a lot of these guys, not just the carries on there dealing tons of damage, but the setup from veterans like Kim down. On the other side, obviously, with Pocus, who's been around ACL for a very long time. It all comes down to this, folks, and it comes down to Summoner's Rift. Who's going to claim the Game 3 win? We'll find all that out and more once we go live from Summoner's Rift for one final time tonight. We'll see you all there live in a couple of minutes. It all comes down to this final battle on Summoner's Rift. Game number 3, Straw Hat Crew versus Mirage Alliance Baguette. We're about to figure out if this Wombo burned the bread factory down or found the new most delicious baguette possible. I feel like we didn't make enough bread jokes, so this is me inserting them in.
I mean, I admire it at the end of the day, but I mean, we've seen the Wombo combo. We saw it in game number 2 with the Yasuo from Ader, and now taking a little bit of a different role in the mid lane. He was the kind of the guy that was, expected to be the finishing touch on a lot of those exchanges with the Wombo combo in game number 2. This time, though, the Orianna is going to start a lot of these fights. Now, Zhao Danny, maybe a bit in trouble here. That's the flash. Not a great start for the Talia, but at the same time, Q start on Vi actually significantly hampers your clear speed. So a bit of a disadvantage for low Jazz as well.
I can't believe we've had 3 games now where somebody's at least down a flash before minions crash. This is the first game where we don't have a questionable first blood, at least, so progress made there.
Progress. Love to see it. But in the meantime, relatively slow game I'm expecting from both sides. The only exception is probably Frost Forest on the Xin Zhao, wanting to get into the thick of things as soon as possible. Focus going for a bit of a failed engage there, a bit of damage received back onto him. But yeah, the Xin wants to get onto the map as soon as possible. Meanwhile, the Vi and most of the entire MAB squad want to just wait until level 6 in order to get that Wombo combo that we've been singing it so high praised of off. And until then, I expect them to be relatively quiet.
Maybe a window for Straw Hat Crew to find themselves some openings. Top lane matchup, very key. Dr. Calculus was big on the Camille picks for the Ducky Getters across their qualifier and promotion tournament run. And no better time than now to be a Camille player, that's for sure, if you're talking 14-19.
Especially with the side lanes and being able to play for them being so very valuable in this current meta. In fact, in any meta, being able to play the side lanes is valuable. And I think, getting those grubs really going to be an important thing that both of these squads are looking to do. And unlocking the Camille is going to be part of that, as we actually see Frost Force just walking in toward the top lane. Decoy has flash.
Okay, he's holding the third Q3, so the knockup is immediately charged, and the hook shot comes across. That was as clean of a dive as you could get for first blood on the Straw Hat Crew side.
Frost Force holding the flash until the last second. Decoy having to burn it, but still dying in the process means that Dr. Calculus is kind of unleashed for the next 5 minutes. This makes it so easy to play the Camille and go for aggressive trades on toward the Mordekaiser, knowing you have that summoner advantage. And I think it's going to be up to Low Jazz on this Vi now, finishing up its full clear, likely going to go down to that Crab to go toward that top side after its reset and hopefully try to equalize things out. But for the time being, Straw Hat Crew strike first in this game.
Straw Hat Crew strike first, and there's not much room to punish back like you talked about. It's not like you're on the right side of the camps to try and steal any away if you're Low Jazz. And it's really hard to punish a Ziggs, especially on Sushi. The quality of being able to take this Ziggs to the bottom lane is that you are rocking that teleport as well. So not even able to really punish wave states on top of that. And boy, they're looking to punish Decoy on this Mordekaiser. Is Frost Forest, before taking that Crab, just wants to show face to make sure Decoy knows that it's not even free to farm right now.
And while I expect that teleport to come into use for the lane, handily for the lane, I do also think that Sushi should be able to use this teleport to go around and join up in objectives, specifically those second spawns of grubs. It is on a cooldown, so it won't be there for the 6-minute mark, but around trying to maybe get those 6s. Hold on, Dr. Calculus may be in trouble.
Does have flash and the hook shot. With that cooldown up, he's able to easily escape the gank. Low Jazz trying to get Decoy back in a better spot. They even had Pocus all the way up top as well, but no dice.
You can see Pocus has rotated toward the mid lane now, maybe trying to look for an angle onto Zhao Danny. They do know, I believe, that Cam Down is in the area, so if there were to be a scrap, it would be a 2v2. Now, Pocus shows on vision, so they both know where the opposing support is. Both of them going toward the bot side of the map, meaning we probably won't see the supports join up for these grubs spawning in a little less than a minute here, but both junglers are either on the top side or making their way up toward the top side.
Now resetting to more traditional spots, going back for ward clears. Maybe Kim Down seeing an angle onto Eider, but Talia Orianna is a matchup that's been around for years, and it's synonymous with the idea of, all right, we're handshaking and farming it out, so it's hard to really create in this lane.
Yep. But a bit of an aggressive move coming out here from Lojaz. I like the movement coming out from Eider, kind of just taking a little bit of damage from the wave to try and reinforce Vi being the dominant person in this topside river. But Kim Down has actually managed to skirt all around Vision and is now looking for a play on the top side. Flash from Xiao Danny in the mid lane, though.
Yep,
Meaning he probably won't be able to join up for that grub fight, so big advantage.
Oh, decoy. Now you're in a 2v1, my friend. Still flashless. The Ignite over top to try and get enough damage through Sushi. One bomb will do it. Decoy been marked for death by the Straw Hat crew, and so far, so good on that.
And Decoy doesn't have the teleport, so this Mordekaiser is going to have to walk back to lane on his gigantic metal legs, meaning that the grubs are a free take here for the Straw Hat crew. Lojaz has the opportunity to handshake objectives. You could see him making his way toward the dragon. Likely going to take that one away, and I don't think SHC are going to be fast enough to contest that one at all. But still, a big advantage coming out here in the first 6 to 6.5 minutes for the Straw Hat crew, but certainly not without its drawbacks.
Drawbacks being dragon stacking, for the time being, is in the hands of Lojaz. So they'll pick that one up. First time it feels like all series we've had that traditional first 3 grubs for Drake trade. It's been a lot more dicey when it comes to those so far, but won't be the case here in game number 3. What is the case? Slight 1,000 gold lead here for the side of Straw Hat crew.
And that's typically what we see in a lot of these, series deciding games. Game 3 really is when I think a lot of teams, or game 5 if you're in a best of 5, is when you see a lot of these teams play a lot more reserved, a lot more macro heavy, and don't look necessarily for a lot of flip plays like we've seen in the past couple of games. I think we've certainly seen some burger flips from the NA tier 3 scene. But this time around, yeah, everyone's playing a lot more reserved, trading objectives, not wanting to get into too much trouble. Really, the only trouble we've seen is in that top lane, where now Decoy is at a deficit of nearly 20 CS compared to Dr. Calculus.
Yeah, and what makes it even more rough is, we talked about last game we had a top laner that fell pretty far behind and had the great conversation that, with a Shen, still valuable with low econ. That is not the case with Mordekaiser. I mean, the ultimate still taking somebody out of the fight is valuable, but certainly is a champion that relies on hitting certain items to be a real menace in fights.
And it's worth noting, this is something that not a lot of people bring up with Mordekaiser ultimate. If Mordekaiser dies in his death realm, so if Mordekaiser kills someone in his death realm, gets a kill, he steals a portion of their stats. But the opposite is also true. If Mordekaiser dies in his death realm, gets picked off, speaking of pickoffs.
Yeah, Eider. Wow, beautiful setup with Xiao Danny. More than enough CC with the seismic shove. And now 3 kills, all spread between the 3 carries. Clean early game for the Straw Hat crew.
And this is the kind of freedom that is getting Dr. Calculus on the board, able to roam up toward that mid lane, make a difference, take down Eider. Xiao Danny, if he's able to shove in this wave, would make it really difficult for this Orianna's life. But now Kim Down's life is pretty hard.
Yeah, rare positioning mistake here from Kim Down. Is not near his own turret, folks, if you can't figure that one out. And that is a gifted kill towards Bazby. Good patience there from Lojaz to give it over to the AD carry.
I'm really good there from MAB to actually give it over to this Kai'Sa. We didn't say it in draft, but Kai'Sa is a very instrumental piece to this draft. It feels like if you don't have the firepower of a fed Kai'Sa and Baz isn't able to free hit in a lot of these team fights, if he isn't able to, kind of killer instinct into a lot of these exchanges, then you are really handicapping the potential of this very engage heavy comp, right? Because you are essentially missing that big, kind of punchline that your squad has been built up to. So now giving that 1 kill over, certainly going to help the case of MAB later down the line.
And maybe it's just rinse and repeat, go for Kim Down. Cease and desist down, Shockwave as well, and Rel is not tanky enough to survive it just yet. Kim Down on the gray screen on repeat in these last couple of minutes.
That does not have to feel good for Kim Down. Dead twice in a row, back to back, and without a support, it kind of feels difficult for topside to be, in maintained control by Straw Hat crew. They're rotating up their players. You can see Frost Force has made his way up, maybe looking for a dive with how chunked Decoy just got in that exchange. He does have the flash and the teleport. We'll have to see if Frost Force actually wants to go for a dive here. He's
Cancel it back. Yep, with Wind Becomes Lightning. Hold on, we have split plays on each side of the map. Sushi, great flash over the Vault Breaker. Not the easiest to execute, so he'll survive. And yeah, Decoy, my friend, you are just marked for death. Hey, why not do it in the death realm? It's just stalling out, though. Frost Force knows he doesn't need to fight this because there's a Triforce Camille on the other side of that portal, and 1Q finds the third kill for Dr. Calculus.
Stylish little flip there coming out from Calculus, calculating that his damage would be enough to take down the Mordekaiser. On the other side, aggressive plays onto Sushi are happening, but really no results from them. They're zoning him off of the wave, and they do manage to get a play, but all the while, you are ignoring the fact that your top laner is dead. This is the second spawn of Grubs, and nobody from MAB is here to respond, so it's going to be 6 Grubs, and the Might's fully unlocked here for Straw Hat Crew at 12 or at 11 and a half minutes, and that side lane threat that we have been cautioning against all game is very alive, and so is Dr. Calculus. Another solo kill coming through from the Camille.
You think the most improved player was a one-hit fluke on the qualifiers? I don't think so. Dr. Calculus, I mean, Decoy, just got to be wary. The Triforce, that's the most expensive item in the game, my friend, on a Camille, and just does not respect Dr. Calculus enough. And that nightmare scenario you're talking about, Quacks, is now reimagined. 6 Grubs on the Camille. First turret done for the Camille as well. Maybe they'll have to look somewhere else to get some gold back. And there is the tried and true way to do it. Cease and desist. Shockwave to knock down Xiao Danny.
Baz also getting a little aggressive on the bot side of the map, zoning off several members of SHC in order to get control of this bot side river, which will net them this dragon. You can see Frost Force has made his way up toward the bot side of the map, but without Xiao Danny to follow, without Kim down to follow, it kind of feels difficult to get into this pit, but they're going to try anyway. Xiao Danny does have the teleport available. They're just going for it.
Frost Force does not want the Drake. He wants the robot, going for Eider here. Couple of good hits. Wind Becomes Lightning, but the hero's entrance could find the turn, but not in time. Great seismic shove from Xiao Danny to find one. Pocus has to flash away from the might of the 4-stack named Straw Hat Crew.
Good re-engage there from Xiao Danny, managing to land his spells, get Eider back into the fray, eventually take him down. The dragon goes the way of Mirage Alliance Baguette, but it still feels like this game is firmly in control of Straw Hat Crew. They have unlocked the Camille fully around the map. They're swapping it toward this bot lane. And I think with how fed Dr. Calculus is, this next dragon really going to be called into question on whether MAB can claim that or not.
Called into question. Because the Dragon Stack, and that's where they have to go, right? This is the biggest gold lead we've seen in the first 15 minutes, nearly 4,000, and you have to find ways to force this comp to play 5v5, because in an ideal scenario for Straw Hat Crew, we're just 4-1-ing, 1-3-1-ing maybe with Xiao Danny and Dr. Calculus spread out. Even Sushi, like you're talking about, because this is a Ziggs with teleport, so he can join fights with ease. You have to find ways to force them to play your game if you're Mirage Alliance, and it feels like right now, the only way that's going to happen is Dragons.
And it feels so difficult for MAB to, be able to teleport reactively around like we've been seeing from Xiao Danny and from Sushi. They've got the same number of teleports, but they're forced to use them so reactively, right? Like Baz doesn't have his teleport, Eider doesn't have his, Decoy doesn't have his, so now kind of the map is their oyster now. With Dr. Calculus having his TP and the Weavers while being unlocked for Xiao Danny, they have so much more cross-map presence, which is just limiting any of these plays being made and forcing them and forcing Mirage Alliance Baguette to just kind of sit back and take it.
And that's one way to lose the series, is just to allow them to do whatever they want. And right now, it's Frost Forest snagging the Rift Herald, which is only going to further push this spread the map out policy that is now seeing Dr. Calculus go towards the bot side. He wants to be the one to claim every single tier 1 turret he can. And Decoy, I mean, it's not an easy job. It's a rough one. Gonna have to answer Dr. Calculus for what feels like all game, because there's not a better option.
It really kind of feels like Decoy. You know, we talk about him being a bit lost in the laning phase, but what about the team fights, right? Eventually, those are going to make their way up toward the Rift, and it feels like this Mordekaiser isn't going to have a lot of agency in them. He's 0-4-0, finally now has the Rylai's complete, but that's not nearly enough to contend with basically anybody on the side of Straw Hat Crew, except Kim Down, obviously, who is the support, and taking down the Rel, or taking out the Rel from the fight, is not the biggest and most prioritized target you want to get away from a 5v5 if you are this Mord.
No, certainly not. And, you know, with how far behind Decoy is, you could see, usually Talia matching up with a Mordekaiser can be a scary prospect, but with how accelerated these solo lanes feel, why not? Because you can send Dr. Calculus to try and threaten Eider. I mean, one hook shot, one Hexag ultimatum, that's a kill. You could send Xiao Danny to hold Decoy at place, drop the Herald mid. This is exactly what we were hoping to see Straw Hat Crew go for when we saw this comp and draft.
And it feels like a lot of that is contributed toward Frost Force, right? I mean, Kim Down obviously had a few oopsies here and there with his 2 deaths, but this Xin Zhao has really been proactive around the map. Even just that first tower dive onto Decoy, burning his flash, burning his TP, and managing to get the kill onto him really set the stage for how this top lane was going to go. And 16.5 minutes into the game, Mirage have not recovered that disadvantage yet. Decoy is still super far behind, just as far behind as he was during that first play. And it's just Straw Hat Crew not allowing them to get back into the game. They were proactive early, and now they're just waiting for Mirage to come to them, like right now.
Flash to get one interrupt. There's all the damage. Hero's entrance. This is a 3v1. Did Dr. Calculus finally fall? He will. Shutdown interrupted by Decoy. Has to flash out of the turn aggro, but at least make sure there's no reinforcements. And that's the way to break the line for Straw Hat Crew. Knock down the King Camille.
They got the Camille, and also well played to Decoy. He managed to cancel the TP from Xiao Danny, so that's a big resource expended by Straw Hat Crew that they won't have right around the time this Dragon is spawning. It's looking like with the 6 grubs, though, there will be a bot lane turret on the market. I don't think Mirage are going to be able to respond. Look at how Straw Hat Crew are rotating the rest of the members toward the mid to catch this mid wave. For the most part, despite that kill, it still feels like Straw Hat Crew, Dr. Calculus is going to respawn. He's going to catch that top wave. He has TP. If a fight breaks out, he can join on in. And they're just so unbelievably strong. The pick is good, but it's not nearly enough for them to recover how far behind they fell.
And how many resources they allocated just to get that kill, right? That was ult and flash out of Low Jazz, Hero's entrance out of Pocus, and the shockwave from Eider. And if you're expending 3 ultimates, flashes, all to kill one member of a team, usually means the trade isn't worth it. But you got to take what you can get right now in this phase if you are Mirage Alliance, because in reality, like we've been talking about, they're playing to try and be that big team fight Wombo presence when Baron hits the Rift, when those really pivotal Hextech Drakes come along.
But unlocking that phase just feels so difficult for them, right? They're being stretched thin around the map because of how prevalent Dr. Calculus is in this game. They constantly have to send 1, 2, 3 members, as we just saw, to just deal with him, which just stunts the ability and just straight up the possibility of this Wombo combo ever coming to fruition. So I want to see if maybe they can try to find a pick. Maybe they can try to find Straw Hat Crew in a 5v5 scenario, because despite the deficit, I still think they have a chance to win it.
Oh boy, and here we go, Dr. Calculus. Look how low he gets Eider before Pocus even shows up. Dr. Calculus putting on a highlight reel on one side of the map, while the rest of the Straw Hat Crew is forcing their will on the Mirage Alliance. Tier 2 turret down, Decoy down as well, and with those grubs, why not keep the push going?
I mean, they've got the 6 grubs. Dr. Calculus still has the teleport. Baz tried to follow up on that play on the top side to maybe get a return kill, but that did not go anywhere. It's a turret, or rather 2 turrets, going the way of Straw Hat Crew. They pick up some kills to boot, and it just kind of feels like one or a few more nails in the coffin will do it, and they will start out their journey in the ACL with a 1-0 scoreline.
Dr. Calculus, game 1 gets his rumble. Unsung hero with those equalizers. Not a huge score line, though, that screamed out to anybody. Game 2, victim of a lot of pressure on the Shen. Not as effective, but now is showing why he was so highly touted in that qualifier run to the promotion tournament. most improved by so many people around the community's regards. My mind hasn't lost a step just yet. Certainly won't if he can be the pivotal carry to get this series home for the Straw Hat crew.
Oh yeah, if you were a Dr. Calculus doubter, if you were a non-believer, he made you believe in here. I'm going to quote the moniker of Worlds this year because it certainly feels like Dr. Calculus in this series is putting on an ACL Worlds-like performance. Like you said, on the Rumble now, on the Camille. This man has been such a rock in the top lane for the squads he's played for, and this time around, it is no different. Frost Forest as well. The death of this man, greatly exaggerated. He has been such a vital piece of the puzzle, such a facilitator all series long. Even in the game they lost, he was always relevant. And this game, with that dive, with how many proactive plays he's been making, he is looking to come back alive here in the Tier 3 scene.
Well, stress is only building here for Mirage Alliance as they have to find a way to break the line. But it might just be a force fast from Frost Forest going all the way after Bazby. Forces his flash out. Decoy into the death realm, but they're going to lose Low Jazz soon. The shockwave hits absolutely nobody from Eider. The ults fall flat from Mirage Alliance when it's the key to their entire composition. Big pullback comes across for Decoy, but not enough damage from the turret to knock Dr. Calculus down. Straw Hat crew stay strong in their mid lane skirmish.
I'm going to be honest, if I'm Frost Force, I'm thanking Decoy in that exchange because not only did he take me away from the fight, but he put me in a 1v1 scenario that also got the Mordekaiser away from that exchange. It really feels like Frost Force, if he didn't get ulted there, he might have had a chance to just get bursted down like Kim Down might now here.
Okay, Low Jazz trying to set up Bazby,
Wow.
but he dies. Bazby will find that trade. Eider teleporting on the flank. They don't have the ultimates, but the question becomes, do they need them? Dr. Calculus doesn't want any further of the fight. Sushi flashing over the wall. Second teleport. It's now Decoy coming through, but keep in mind, there's still not any strong ultimates, but he's got a big claw to rip through Sushi. Shut down number one. Frost Force going to fall for number two, right over the wall from a Baron. It's going to have to be the hero of the Straw Hat crew to keep Mirage Alliance from coming back into this one.
I mean, they don't have their jungler up. They don't have that smite available. Zhao Danny is up in about 10 seconds here, has TP available. I don't know if they have enough firepower. I don't know if they can get in there without sacrificing one or more members. This might just be a Baron for Mirage Alliance, but they don't want to give it up. But I think it's just gone, Slayer.
Under 2k HP, here comes Kim down. Can he dream steal it? No, he cannot. It is picked up by Eider, but Dr. Calculus sees a window, jumps in for one kill. On to Bazby with the Hextech ultimatum, but cannot wait for the Q2. Zhao Danny's teleport was just a bit too late, and now he's taunted up, stunned up, and thrown into the air. The Baguettes fly high. Baron in 3.
Absolute masterclass team fight there from Mirage Alliance. Baguette, we talked about the power of team fighting in this comp, and finally, after 22 minutes into the game, they make it happen. They find the Baron, they pick off all members who try to stop them, and the gold lead, it still favors Straw Hat crew. But man, Mirage Alliance Baguette managed to close that gap significantly here.
And now they'll be the first ones to have access towards this next Hextech Drake. There's still death timers on Zhao Danny, Dr. Calculus, and they've gotten on top of Frost Forest, called it eloquently, Quacks. But do they have enough damage? Because Low Jazz took a big lick in there from Sushi. These bombs are starting to hurt with the Liandries. They're actually not going to be able to commit towards that kill just yet.
And I mean, that's Crescent Guard down and Super Mega Inferno Bomb down as well. The ultimates really are the big thing to keep track of, as Adam uses this on Sushi.
Storm Surge, not enough to find that kill. Sushi gonna have to reset. He does have teleport available, though, to get right back towards this Drake pit.
That's a big ultimate to be used. Eider not having that shockwave means that this follow-up from any engage Mirage Alliance Baguette tried to go for will not be as strong. Low Jazz maybe trying to look for an angle onto Calculus. This is soul point for MAB. If they get this, the win con stays alive. If they lose it, that win con potentially squandered here in game number 3. They won't have anything to play for, and by extension, will lose a lot of pressure around the map.
MAB, they got their 5v5, but they don't have the key ultimates. Dr. Calculus has his. Forces Pocus to go for the hero's entrance. Good interrupt from Low Jazz. Kim Down cannot get his Magnet Storm onto the back line, but they don't have the ultimates to sync them together, and that means it's just front line v front line. Death Realm onto Frost Forest. Decoy, though, is going to pop out to find himself very alone, and Dr. Calculus got to the back line and eviscerated Eider for one. Bazby stays up, though, able to get the Rage Blade flowing. It's a trade of front line. It's a trade of top laners, but it's Low Jazz and Bazby down a man, and the Dragon still waiting to be taken.
And Dr. Calculus, he goes down, but he manages to buy space for his team to take down Decoy. Really now, they don't have any front line to be able to contest this Dragon. The best they've got is the Vibe, but that's your jungler. That's the man you got to keep alive, so they cannot contest this Dragon. It's going to be 2 apiece now per team. It was a scrappy fight. It was a back and forth fight, but Straw Hat Crew taking this Dragon will be a symbol of their victory in that skirmish.
Dragon stack evened out. Game state evened out. And we're heading towards a lull with the fact there are very little to play for. But as I say that, a teleport's coming across here. They're going with Dr. Calculus into a 2v3. Cease and desist over the wall. Dr. Calculus gets taunted, stunned up, and that was an error from the Ducky Gators King top laner. But can Frost Forest redeem it? No, cannot get the knockup onto Low Jazz. Another teleport comes across. This time it's going to be Eider to join the fray. But nothing more to be had just yet.
And a big vision reveal there coming out from Mirage Alliance Baguette to boot. So they will be able to track and maneuver around this side of the jungle. They want to go for that mid lane tower. They want to try and open up this map. They might have found Frost Forest.
Has the flash, but doesn't commit it until a bit too late. The Crescent Guard, though, is blocking the damage. Frost Forest is getting healed up. He's staying alive. Will finally drop to Low Jazz, but can Sushi find the trade? No, the burn is not going to burn bright enough.
And it's a 1-for-0. Straw Hat, though, managing to stop the push in the mid lane so they don't end up getting that mid lane turret. They're small advantages, they're minute advantages, but they're advantages nonetheless, and it's causing MAB to come back into this game. It has been so back and forth. It was such a rough first 15 minutes for them. It was looking like Straw Hat Crew had this one in the bag, but the team fights open up, the 5v5s go on, and the Dream Team comp comes alive for Mirage Alliance Baguettes. And now, to kick it all off, to top it all off, we've got to pause, ladies and gentlemen.
Looks like Sushi has dropped out. Never a good time for a pause as we return to the caster desk. 27 minutes in. That's not when you want to pause, because you want to make, talk about the momentum and all that stuff, Quacks. Can be a momentum killer if you're stuck here paused for too long.
It certainly can, but I have a feeling we won't be paused here for too long. But man, this is only a 27-minute game, Slayer. This game, I can feel the hairs on my head turning gray. This feels like a 40-minute slugfest, back and forth, up and down, left and right. This game has gone in all different directions. And really, I couldn't tell you who's going to come out on top here. I mean, Straw Hat Crew still have their individual strong points, like this 5-1 Ziggs, as we do finally get onto the unpause. But it feels like every time the Zig tries to show its face, it just gets ulted by the Vibe, engaged on by Pocus. It is zoned away. Maybe it doesn't die, but they take it out of the fight. And really, that's all that matters for them at this point in the game. Not necessarily killing the Ziggs, but just making it irrelevant in a lot of these skirmishes.
So interesting to draw parallels to that last Mirage Alliance win, where they were drafted a comp that is so in your face except for one member, and Bazby had enough damage, was able to execute those kills. It's a similar scenario for Straw Hat Crew, but like you're pointing out, Quacks, Sushi has yet to find those impactful kills from distance on this Ziggs just yet. The items are now here. This is a 3-item Ziggs that is certainly going to hurt.
And now, I mean, we've got the Seeker's Arm Guard completed for Baz, so a lot of safety if he does actually get engaged on this Kai'Sa. Building a little bit of AP, so these Void Seekers are going to start to hurt as well. They've got to try and find a way to get on toward this Kai'Sa, but with how much peel and how much aggression MAB are playing for, like right now, it's so difficult.
Okay, cease and desist down, the hero's entrance, but it's on a Frost Force, so they get the Crescent Guard out, but that's not the target for that ultimate Wombo combo we talked about from Mirage. Flash away from Sushi to make sure the Shockwave doesn't get him. So the ults for the Baguettes, only claiming key summoners for now, not the kills they need to turn for a Baron.
That's a big summoner, though. That really leaves Sushi in a vulnerable position from here on out. They're going to have to play full-on defense for the Ziggs if they want it to be kept alive. We just mentioned the importance of Sushi in a lot of these fights. Without Flash, without that inherent safety, it's so much easier for Mirage Alliance Baguette to look on toward that backline, look on toward these picks. They've gotten no shortage of picks. It feels like Pocus and Kimdown are having a competition for how many fishes they can find out of the water here in game number 3. But it's kind of a question on, do those picks actually matter? Because of how tanky some of these top line members are. They are deceptively hard to kill, and we've seen that time and time again.
What we've seen Straw Hat Crew have most success with is spreading the map, and that's what Dr. Calculus is trying to get back towards doing. But both top laners do have that teleport. It's spreading them thin, and Straw Hat Crew know it. There's the Weaver's Wall. Zhao Danny pops off onto the Pocket side, while Kimdown is on the Low Jazz side, so the Weaver's Wall, bit of a wasted expenditure.
Bit of wasted expenditure for sure, and now, you know, the Dragon is coming up in a little less than a minute. This is soul point for either team that manages to claim it. Weaver's Wall, not the biggest ultimate when it comes to, you know, just inherent combat, but being able to maneuver around and get those flanks is always going to be an advantage, and it's an advantage that the Straw Hat Crew will not have going into this fight. Dr. Calculus, though, on the top side of the map, like you said, they're just trying to thin out the map. I like what MAB are doing here. They recognize the Camille is on the other side. They recognize that big point of power is not present, so they're just trying to avoid and maneuver around all of these vision wards that could potentially be used by Dr. Calculus to maneuver a flank. And look at how dark that bot side of the map is here for Straw Hat Crew. They don't have any vision. They might just have to brute force their way through this river, and that could be disastrous for them.
The question now is, does Straw Hat Crew even care about the Dragon? Because it's not like Hextech Soul will be claimed here. Would they rather play for the gold and play for their own top side? Because Dr. Calculus, he's already gotten a tier 2 turret down at the very least for this trade.
I mean, it is on vision. Baz is fully unlocked here. You can see it now. The teleport is coming through. They want to try and force a play here. Decoy is going to be late to the party. Baz is split up. It feels like SHC recognized what was going on, and they capitalized on it immediately.
Wow, the bully ball really paid off there. They're going to get away with both that tier 2 outer turret and the Dragon, purely based off of macro map rotations. Big to see, and a slight edge, because this now will be a Hextech Soul with 4 Hextech Drakes for the side of Straw Hat Crew if they can get there.
It certainly is going to help them a lot, and not only is it going to help them, you know, in the sense that they will get a win con, but it also means that they could give up this next Dragon if they so desire. I mean, the siege that Baron provides might be more worth it than the Soul at this point, because you're knocking on the base. You have to get through the wave clear of the Kai'Sa with Static Shiv. You've got to get through the wave clear of Mordekaiser and Orianna. It feels like you need Baron empowered minions in order to do that. So now that they have the Soul unlocked, now that they've taken, or the Soul point unlocked, now that they've taken that possibility away from Mirage Alliance Baguettes, they can maybe look to other avenues to try and threaten the map.
But on the flip side, Mirage Alliance may be taking away that split push ability from the Straw Hat Crew, because they have clear teleport advantages. They have 3 teleports available. Mainly Dr. Calculus is being down, so you can't really stretch the map as thin as you would have earlier, because Mirage Alliance could just force a Baron on the turn, or maybe just force a fight here in this 5v5. Tons of big ultimates being used, but it's the crash down that engages onto Decoy, goes into the death round with Zhao Danny. The Weaver's Wall still goes through. Zhao Danny is going to go golden. 3-man shockwave from Eider onto the backline, forces everybody to flash on out. Frost Forest will be claimed next, and they all fall like dominoes behind it. 3 back for Mirage Alliance with nobody dead.
Absolute amazing team fight coming out there from Mirage Alliance Baguette. A beautiful shockwave from Adder. No AD champs, no carry champs, no problem. The wombo combo comes through, and it comes through big. And there's now a Baron because of that. It's going to be a trade on the other side. You can see the teleport from Zhao Danny to get that inhibitor. But a big win con and a big fight for MAB as they now take control of this gold lead and could take control of this game with this buff.
We made it a point from the draft that MAB need to rely on their key ultimates, none bigger than that shockwave from Eider. 3 items strong, it packs a punch like none other, and it finally comes along at maybe the biggest moment of this series.
For sure. Eider, the big X factor of Mirage Alliance. Baguette, so many questions around this player. Really, really new to the competitive scene. Hadn't had any particularly insane results, but he's looking to change all of that. He finds Zhao Danny.
Yeah, and he's as good as dead. Had to go into the stasis to dodge the storm surge, but he falls. And it's Eider again to get the pick. And now Mirage Alliance can barrel on down and look for more. Cease and desist onto Frost Forest. He'll stay safe for now. They force out a huge explosive bomb from Sushi that backs off the push for now.
Sushi trying to hold the line, hold the fort down, manages for the time being to dissuade the 4-stack of MAB on this push. And with those mines, will be able to stop it for a little bit longer. But there are other lanes, there are other facets that they can push through. The TP coming in from Eider toward that top lane, and the rest of the team is there to follow. TP from Baz as well. They're rotating all of their members around the map. They're doing it beautifully. Zhao Danny is still dead, so the numbers advantage is still present. And with these Baron empowered minions, it just looks like Straw Hat Crew are struggling to try and contain these hits on the tower.
Sushi's wave clear really permanent. Another shockwave out. Dr. Calculus has enough in the tank department to survive it for now, but that should be the top lane tier 2 turret falling in the name of Mirage Alliance.
And I like the decoys in the mid lane here. No one can really challenge him to a 2v1 because he can just make that a 1v1. This is the perfect kind of champion to put on a side lane or at least away from your team because he can make it a 1-for-1 trade. And a 1-for-1 trade right before the dragon comes online, certainly going to favor MAB at this point in the game, I would imagine. But now that second, or no, not the second, but rather the 7th dragon of the game on both teams' mind. This is still sole point for Straw Hat Crew. They lost the Baron, they lost the fight, they lost the gold lead, but they have a chance to gain it all back here and now.
We have gone through 3 whole games and 36 minutes in the final one, and it still feels like it's anyone's game to win. What does the next fold look like? Dr. Calculus just teleported bot lane. A lot of pings. They want to go for Eider. They have the Weaver's Wall to go for it, but they don't commit to the play. Eider stays safe with a teleport from Decoy behind. And does the re-engage come out from Mirage Alliance?
Those do so much damage.
So much damage indeed. Low Jazz looking for his window in. Frost Forest still has the Crescent Guard. Zhao Denny at about a half HP. Straw Hat Crew, they don't need to take this dragon. They are the ones on sole point, but they seem to be content, still fighting for it. There is the giant shockwave out, but it only hits Frost Forest, and his Crescent Guard is down. Dr. Calculus looking for a flank, but they've already lost their frontliner. Decoy in a 1v1 versus Zhao Denny. How much time can he buy? Because he's left Sushi all out on his own. And Sushi will survive, but Zhao Danny will not. 2 kills to Mirage Alliance back, and they will get themselves to sole point on the 7th dragon of the game.
This Biter Slayer, it's gonna come down to the wire. Dr. Calculus looking to clear out that mid wave, so buys his team a little bit of space, a little bit of time. But overall, slow and steady is winning the race here for Mirage Alliance. Baguette, they play the fight slow. They find a pick onto Kim down, and then the ultimate from Decoy finds a pick onto Danny. So little micro advantages coming through, and the big one being that dragon. It really feels like this game, it could explode at any moment. We don't need to wait 5 minutes for this next dragon. One team fight could happen in the next 30 seconds, and suddenly a team could win the game. This game is on a knife's edge, and both teams are masters at this balancing act so far.
Masters of the balancing act. Both have made their fair share of mistakes. Any for Mirage Alliance coming in that early phase. This at one point was a 4K gold lead, 320 minutes with a Camille that looked like it was going to run over the game. A Camille on Dr. Calculus that ran over many a games on stages higher than the ACL. But that's just the season and split we are ahead for in the Aegis Champions League. And like we've mentioned many times, not an end in sight to this one.
And I kind of like what Straw Hat Crew are doing at this point in the game. You can see there is a Guardian Angel complete for Dr. Calculus. There's 2 Zanyas from both AP threats on the side of Straw Hat Crew, as well as Zhao Danny has one, Sushi has one. And that little steel sigil is being built up by Frost Force, signaling that they will have yet another Guardian Angel. So a lot of extended fight ability from these items being built, so they will be able to stasis, they will be able to survive, and hopefully that second life, that stalling out on the fight, will be able to net them the time they need to win a fight, because so far, it really feels like these last few fights, these last 10 minutes, have all gone the way of Mirage Alliance Baguette, whether it be big, whether it be small. It is still in their favor, and it's going to have to be Straw Hat Crew, the team that had such a dominant early game, who are going to have to try and turn that around and really punch through in these last few minutes.
Such a dominant early game, such a dominant Game 1 win. It would certainly sting for all of that to mean nothing but a series loss. It seems like our attention must be directed towards the Baron pit, where Straw Hat Crew have set up. They can now get back to that 4-1 spread with Dr. Calculus' teleport being available, and he's still, Quack's got to like his odds in the 1v1 against Decoy, like we have all game long.
I mean, Dr. Calculus and Decoy are going to meet each other on the top side of the map. It is worth noting, Decoy does not have the teleport. Dr. Calculus does, so they're putting him in the death realm, but they're committing to. Meanwhile, the Baron is being taken.
Yep, Dr. Calculus in 1v2. His GA is popped, but the Baron is being taken on the backside. Dr. Calculus survives for now, but our attention must drift towards the Baron, which is under 7,000 HP. They're going for Sushi. Basby has an angle. They force Sushi into the stasis, but the hero's entrance still comes across. Shockwave doesn't land, but it's Pocus that does land his kill. The big bad Ziggs is down. What more can Mirage Alliance find? Zhao Danny very low, and Pocus wants the killing blow. Gets the taunt on the 2. Zhao Danny's down. It's just the tanks left up. Dr. Calculus survives, but for what cost? 3 down for the Straw Hat Crew.
And they completely stalled Dr. Calculus from joining the fight. They picked them off one by one. Frost Force wants to try and get a kill here. It's a desperate attempt. Dr. This is here with Frost Force. Can they do it?
No, his hook shot does not get to Adder, and Decoy joins the fight. The one main carry is left down, and it's another Pocus taunt. The ace at 40 minutes. Should this be the last blow for Mirage Alliance to claim series victory?
It's 15 seconds on the death timers for the bot lane. Zhao Danny not farther behind, but that's a 3v5 Slayer. That is a big numbers advantage for Mirage Alliance Baguettes. Their health bars are plenty healthy. Their spirits are high. Their baguettes are tall, and they are going to gate this series.
Sushi cuts down the wave, but he gets destroyed in the blink of an eye. They don't need minions. The Nexus turrets are down. Zhao Danny and Kim Dow can watch nothing but their Nexus fall. 41 minutes, down 1-0. Mirage Alliance Baguette are 1-0 in the Noxus division.
And aren't you, everyone who's watching, glad that we decided to stream this match? Aren't you happy you got to watch some League of Legends? Boy, was this a series that you did not want to miss. And this just goes to show how competitive the ACL is. A team like Mirage Alliance Baguette, who, guilty as charged, most people on the seating committee put lower than Straw Hat Crew, can upset them and make them sweat for it and finally take the victory. And what a victory it was. Such a decisive game. 41 minutes in. It was anyone's game, but Mirage Alliance Baguette, the org, who many called into question on whether they would return or not after their NACL spring split, they come back, and they come back swinging hard.
Came back swinging. Like we talked about, if you missed the whole entirety of this series, this has been going on now for, I mean, I got to be approaching the 3-hour mark. I'm looking for a number, but I don't find it.
3:19.
3:19, there you go. 1-0 start for the Straw Hat Crew, and it was probably the most decisive game, Quacks, I would say, in that win.
Yeah.
Game, and it looked like Mirage Alliance bit lost. They reconvene themselves behind a Wombo comp, and they do it again here in Game 3. And it's just so awesome. I know you pointed out a lot of times here how much faith Mirage Alliance Baguette had in this, 18, 19-year-old prodigy from Canada, Eider. Big in the game to win on Yasuo. Those shockwaves, that one triple shockwave, that really felt like when the game tilted in favor.
Game around.
Yep.
That play turned the game around. It was all downhill for Mirage Alliance Baguette there, but he finds a canyon-like, you know the canyon knock-up with the cane.
Oh, yeah.
The 3-man shockwave. I was getting flashbacks of that. That saved the entire game, and although it was not an easy road by any means after that play, He still managed to find those big shockwaves. A lot of work, I will say, was done by that Storm Surge, particularly Zhao Danny having to Zonias in order to avoid it, allowed them to still get the pick onto him. They delayed the death of a member, which gave them more time with a numbers advantage. And overall, yeah, credit to Eider, credit to the entire team of Mirage Alliance of Baguette, in particular Baz, we said had to step up for this series. He didn't just step up. This man flew in this series. He was so good on the Kaisa. And in game 2, he was also super, super duper good on that Hui. So if you were not a believer of Baz, if you were not a believer of Eider, you got to start believing from here on out.
Yeah, and sometimes I know so many people have forgot about it, but Pocus Galio is not to be messed with. And those couple of taunts that he found at that Baron pit with the chaos of the split map were so pristine. It took, I got to think, every ounce of sweat, blood, and tears from Mirage Alliance Baguette, but they are 1-0 in Noxus atop the group. Tied for now, but atop the group of Noxus. It has been an absolute blast to come out here on Saturday. Make sure we get as much coverage towards the ACL. These two teams didn't disappoint. I hope myself and Quacks did not disappoint the coverage. Obviously, guys, a big shout out to Aegis Esports for, one, putting the tournament on, two, allowing us to do this, because we're not here on Stream on the Salt Mine unless Ivar and the crew let us do this. So big shout out to them as always. Make sure to tune in Fridays every week I know you can put up 2 streams. We are going to try and stream here as well, but you got to have the 8 stream up as always, because that will have a banger matchup week in and week out. But we here on the Salt Mine have only highlighted 4 of the 36 teams that are in the ACL right now. So we've got a lot more to do.
So much. Yeah, it's going to be a banger, honestly. 36 teams. At some point, I would like to be able to cover, almost all of them, if not all of them. I know that might be a little bit difficult, but that's the hope. And I hope that all of you are going to stick around with us. You are going to take this ride with us, because it's going to be a wild ride. It's going to be a wild season. Upsets can happen. Gods can bleed. Favorites can fall. And that's exactly what you're going to get when you tune in to our stream, to Aegis' stream, and when you watch the ACL here this fall.
But for now, enjoy the rest of your weekend as it comes, and make sure to be back Friday night, because ACL is all about Fridays. Nothing else should be. And we'll hope to see you guys back here on the Salt Mine then. But for now, enjoy the rest of your night and take care.